Chapter 440. In the end, the mother and daughter pair did succeed. Feng Juntian was the only one who survived in the entire Feng clan. Because Feng Yanran represented the blood race and signed a peace treaty with the human race, Feng Juntian couldn't take revenge even if he wanted to. He lived in the pain of not being able to avenge his family for the rest of his life. And in this life, with the arrival of Feng Wu, Feng Yi was successfully born. This child who shouldn't have come to this world was born with great power. His power would only grow stronger as he grew. Because of Feng Ye's uniqueness, this child replaced Feng Wuliu and Feng Tianqing's position and became the food that Feng Tianqing and Feng Tianqing had set their eyes on. Feng Wu didn't know all of this. Feng Wu was currently going to Bai Lianfeng's residence in the ethereal realm. Bai Lianfeng had specially created a place that looked like Mount Yu in order to reminisce about the days in the Little Chen realm. Not only did this place have a mountain range that looked like Mount Yu, it also had a village that looked exactly like the village at the foot of Mount Yu. Even the little animals that had played with Feng Wu since she was young looked exactly the same. After playing with the little rabbit for a while, Feng Wu happily ran into a bamboo house. This bamboo house was where her master, Bai Lianfeng, lived. The layout of the bamboo house was exactly the same as on Mount Yuhua. Feng Wu easily found Bai Lianfeng in his study. "Master." Feng Wu saw her master whom she hadn't seen for a while. Her beautiful black eyes lit up and she threw herself into her master's embrace. "You little girl, you only came to see your master after so long. What did you gain from your trip this time?" Bai Lianfeng put down the book in his hand and dotingly rubbed his beloved disciple's head. Feng Wu told her master everything from the time she went out to sea to when she left the sea god's tomb. Bai Lianfeng only listened quietly and didn't interrupt. After Feng Wu finished, he said, "Stay away from that Zicheng in the future. That girl's thoughts are too heavy. She's not suitable to be friends with you." "Okay." Feng Wu agreed without thinking. In any case, she and Zicheng weren't friends. They were just classmates. Bai Lianfeng nodded his head in satisfaction. Sure enough, his precious little disciple was the cutest. You can try your best in this extreme survival challenge. The special mission this time is a bit special. If you don't go with them, I'm afraid it won't be easy for them to complete this mission. Bai Lianfeng continued. "Okay, I'll try my best." Feng Wu's voice came from Bai Lianfeng's chest. Her voice sounded very serious. So obedient. Bai Lianfeng was not stingy in praising her beloved disciple. Being praised by his master, he was happy. Feng Wu grinned from ear to ear. She also told Father Yu about the things she had gained along the way. Among them, there were actually a few materials that he needed to rebuild his physical body. Thus, her master praised her as a reward, which made the Feng Wu girl's mood soar. She was determined to find more things for her master so that he could praise her more often. When she returned to the dormitory at night, there wasn't a single person there. Feng Wu went to see Feng Wu. Little White was taking good care of Feng Ye. Now, even Bao Bao liked being by Little Bun's side. He was no longer so clingy to Feng Wu. Ever since Bao Bao saw Feng Ye, he had been circling around Feng Ye for some reason. Feng Ye liked Bao Bao a lot. The man and beast played together every day. She asked Little White to make a delicious meal and enjoyed it very much. After dinner, she went back to the virtual realm. At this time, the team competition hadn't ended yet. However, there were more than 10 teams that survived. More than half of the students in the school had been eliminated. At this time, the vice president was still sitting on the stage. Beside him was still Ta Man Sha. As you can see, a month has passed since the start of the competition. In this month, 80% of the teams have been eliminated for one reason or another. Now, there are only 11 teams left on the field. Each of these 11 teams is extremely strong. Which team will win in the end? Let's ask the vice president for his opinion. Ta Man Sha turned to the vice president. The vice president coughed softly and began to speak. The 11 teams are very strong. Each team has a few strong experts. It's hard to tell who will win in the end. The vice president fondled his long white beard and said with a smile, "Who wants to hear that from you? Tarman Shah slowly pressed the cross on her forehead. Alright, it's already night time in the arena. Let's make use of this time to interview our fellow students for their opinions. Hello everyone, I'm your senior, Olivia. I'll be doing the interview. A golden-haired beauty with golden eyes came up to them. She was holding a sound-amplifying device in her hand. Behind Olivia was a senior carrying a piece of equipment. The senior was able to run so fast even though he was carrying a piece of equipment. It was obvious that he was from the Swordmaster School. Everyone was wondering what the strange equipment was until they saw the people being interviewed appear on the screen. The screen was split into two. One half was showing the participants sleeping, while the other half was showing the interview. Hello, student. May I ask if you're one of the contestants for this year's competition? Olivia stopped a male swordmaster with her sound-amplifying device. She raised the device in front of the man and asked with a smile. Me? Yeah, I'm taking part in the team competition. The man was startled for a moment before he answered. Can you tell me why you lost in the team competition? Olivia asked. The man's expression suddenly shifted when he heard the question. He was infuriated. Isn't the reason why we lost in the team competition because a useless flower vase joined the team? That be ****ch. It's fine if she's useless, we don't expect her to lead the team, but she's not doing anything every day, yet she still has the ability to lure the monsters to her side to attack her. I wonder if that woman killed the entire family of those monsters in her past life. Those monsters kept chasing after her, and they couldn't stop once they saw her. Our whole team is being dragged down by that ****ch. If I see her again, I'll beat her up so badly that even her mother won't recognize her. The man cursed the woman on the screen for 10 minutes before he finally stopped. Olivia did not dare to ask any other questions. She quickly ended the interview and left with the man with the anti-magic equipment. Olivia then interviewed a few participants who had lost in the team competition. Every one of them was cursing the black sheep of their team. They were extremely disgusted by the black sheep of their team. It wasn't easy to interview someone who didn't scold her, but that person's expression changed and he ran away. Oliver still didn't understand what was going on. It wasn't until someone beside her saw and reminded her that she realized that the man she interviewed was the black sheep himself. No wonder he ran away so quickly. Chapter 441. Next, Oliver interviewed a few contestants who had lost in the group competition. These contestants were all cursing the black sheep in their teams, and they hated those black sheep. It wasn't easy to interview someone who didn't scold her, but that person's expression changed and he ran away. Oliver still didn't understand what was going on. It wasn't until someone beside her saw and reminded her that she realized that the man she interviewed was the black sheep himself. No wonder he ran away so quickly. Oliver's interview wasn't that smooth. Every contestant had a lot of complaints to vent, but she wasn't here to listen to these people's complaints. Later, she had no choice but to find a few girls to interview. Fengwu stood in the square, looking at the scene of the competition on the holographic screen. The 11 teams in the arena were all in different positions, so they didn't meet. Most of the teams that were eliminated because they didn't understand the creatures called zombies. The 11 teams that were lucky enough to survive until now were only able to survive because they possessed extraordinary strength and were more cautious than the other teams. However, this competition wasn't just that difficult. Now that the dungeon had been upgraded, the zombies in the dungeon had been upgraded from rank 1 zombies to rank 2 zombies. This change caused some teams that had underestimated the strength of the zombies to be eliminated. A white light flashed, and 3 teams that were still in the arena were eliminated. These 3 teams were all strong, and it wasn't easy for them to survive until now. It was a pity that they were eliminated at the last moment. These teams had already collected about 10 school emblems. If they were given a little more time, they would definitely be able to complete the collection of school emblems and pass the competition. Unfortunately, a competition was a competition, and failure was failure. There were no ifs. Ming-Shi realized that the longer they stayed in the arena, the more difficult it would become. Ming-Shi wasn't the only one who realized this. Some of the teams that were still alive also realized this phenomenon. Such a change would make it more difficult for them to win the competition. The competition was still going on. The Ming-Shi team had already found 8 school emblems. The further they went, the harder it was to find the emblems. They only needed 2 more emblems to complete the competition, but these last 2 emblems were the hardest to find. Ming-Shi's test was still to come. Fengwu ran out of the school and went to the streets to look for food. Notre Dame du Starlight screen was still broadcasting the contestants' progress. A crowd had gathered outside the school to watch the show. After all, this was the mirage, so the school did not stop these people from watching. As long as they did not disturb the competition, it was not a big deal. Fengwu bought a bowl of sour plum soup when she left school. She didn't expect to meet 3 acquaintances. Xiao Wu. Tingyu waved her little hands excitedly as she rushed towards Fengwu and sat down beside Fengwu. Tingfeng and Pei Qing followed behind Tingyu and walked towards Fengwu happily. "Boss, a bowl of sour plum soup for Ol San." Tingyu shouted loudly as she slammed the table. "Coming." The boss looked up and replied slowly. He got up and went to get the soup. TSK, shouting so loudly. "I thought she would order something good. Turns out it's a cheap drink like sour plum soup," the nearby customers muttered softly. This was a small shop that sold drinks. There were all kinds of drinks in the shop, and the cheapest one was the popular drink like sour plum soup. A cup of sour plum soup only cost 2 copper coins. Because the production of sour plums was very cheap, it could not be sold for a high price. A bunch of poor people. Why would they come here to drink when they had no money? Look at them, they were drinking fragrant fruit tea and fruit juice. Sour plum soup was for the poor. Tingyu and the other 2 did not care about the subtle looks that others were giving them. They were still immersed in the excitement of seeing Fengwu. No matter what others said, they just pretended not to hear. Tingyu, Tingfeng, big brother Pei Qing. Fengwu was pleasantly surprised to see her 3 friends whom she had not seen for a long time. "Xiao Wu, long time no see. Where have you been all this time? We couldn't find you and Captain Ajur." Tingyu complained softly. "Yeah, we couldn't find you." Tingfeng also drank a big mouthful of the sour plum soup served by the boss. "We watched your competition. It was very good. If you didn't meet someone who was dragging you down, Xiao Wu would definitely succeed." Pei Qing felt a little sorry for Fengwu. If it was an individual competition, Fengwu would have performed better. Unfortunately, it was a team competition, which was very disadvantageous for Fengwu. Fengwu answered Tingyu's question and told her about their trip to the sea. She also told Pei Qing and the others about Death Island, Sea God's Tomb, and Bewitching Wind Island. Pei Qing and the others never dreamed that Fengwu would experience so many things after not seeing her for a while. Every incident she encountered sounded extremely dangerous, but she managed to overcome them all. If they were the ones who encountered her, they would not be confident that they could survive. Pei Qing and the others were shocked by Fengwu's experiences. They felt that the missions they had accepted recently were not dangerous at all compared to what Fengwu had encountered. Pei Qing also told Fengwu about the missions they accepted and the interesting things they encountered during the missions. Pei Qing and the others' lives were also very exciting. They looked for pets, caught adulterers, and eliminated bandits. As long as they could earn money, they would do these missions. Of course, Pei Qing and the others accepted the missions according to their abilities. They would never challenge any difficult missions. The 3 of them were people who cherished their lives. "By the way, Xiao Wu, we accepted a new mission. Are you interested in doing it with us?" This mission was issued by an old lady. That old lady suspects that her daughter-in-law is not human, so she wants to ask adventurers to help her find out the truth. "Xiao Wu, do you want to come with us?" Tingyu held Fengwu's hand and asked cutely. "Do a mission?" Fengwu blinked. The individual competition would start in 10 days, so she could go. She nodded and agreed. Pei Qing and the others cheered and agreed to meet at the school gate tomorrow morning. Fortunately, the students of the Swordmaster Department did not need to memorize so many spells. As long as they scored high enough in actual combat during the exam, the teachers would not mind if their students accepted missions. After all, the Swordmaster was a combat profession. Only in actual combat could they truly grow. After Feng Wu and Ting Yu discussed the time, they went down the virtual realm to ask for leave from the teacher. Knowing that Feng Wu was going to do a mission for the Adventurers Guild, the teacher very quickly approved Feng Wu's leave. This time, Feng Wu did not plan to bring Xiao Yi with her. However, who should she give Xiao Yi to? Ajur was a good choice, but Ajur usually had classes and it was not convenient for him to take care of the child. Chapter 442. When Feng Wu was considering whether to let Tian Yu take care of the child for a period of time, the vice president received the news and appeared. He very actively expressed that he wanted to help Feng Wu take care of the child. Xiao Yi was also familiar with the vice president because he was very active every time he took care of the child. Feng Wu also did not object to letting the kind old man take care of Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi had a place to go, and it was one of the two strongest people in the school. Feng Wu could rest assured about Xiao Ye's safety. The next day, she put Xiao Yi in the vice president's arms. She took the baby Rue beast and waved to Xiao Yi and left the school. Ajur also wanted to go, but for some reason, he could not leave the school. This made Ajur depressed and could only watch Feng Wu and the three unreliable animals leave together. Feng Wu's departure attracted some people's attention, but most people's attention was on the extreme survival challenge. Although Feng Yanran and her daughter had their eyes on Xiao Yi, now that Xiao Yi was in the vice president's hands, it was impossible for them to do anything. The vice president was the strongest person in the school besides the president. Although no one had seen him fight, no one dared to touch the tiger's whiskers. Since Xiao Yi was handed over to the vice president, everyone found that the vice president would bring a little bun with him every time he commentated. This little bun was very cute. His delicate and cute little face was so cute that it could kill a lot of women. Do you think this child is the vice president's grandson? No way, I've never heard of the vice president having children. Then it's his son. That's even more impossible. The vice president is so old. How can he have a son? Then who is this child? Maybe it's the vice president's friend's child. There were different opinions about Xiao Ye's identity in the school. Only a few people recognized that this child was Feng Wu's legendary illegitimate child. Could it be that this child was actually the vice president and Feng Wu's illegitimate child? No, this idea was too dirty. If the vice president knew, he would definitely kill them. He definitely would. Could it be that this child? The vice principal saw that this child's bones were extraordinary, so he wanted to raise him up and pass on his mantle? This guess was accepted by many people, although they really couldn't see what kind of talent this little bun had to be able to catch the eye of the vice principal who had seen countless geniuses. Regarding these guesses, the vice president did not say anything. Let them guess. Anyway, he had already made up his mind. He would not say anything. If they had the ability, they could go ahead and guess. Feng Wu did not know what had happened at school because of Xiao Yi. They had now arrived at Count Nicholas's castle through the teleportation portal. Outside the castle, a middle-aged man who looked like a butler led them through a hidden passage to a tall tower. "Madam, the adventurer who accepted the mission has arrived." The housekeeper knocked on the door and walked in, respectfully reporting to the elegant old woman in the room. "Let them in." An old voice with the vicissitudes of time came from the door. Pei Qing and the others stood quietly outside the door. They waited until a maid came to lead them in, and then they followed in. "Hello, esteemed old madam." Pei Qing represented everyone and led them to greet the old madam. "No need to be so polite." The old madam's voice came. Feng Wu and the others looked over, only to find that the woman sitting on the sofa not far away did not look old. She looked to be in her 50s. Although there were traces of age on the old madam's face, they were not heavy. However, her old hair had turned white, and there seemed to be a hint of melancholy in her eyes. "Now that you've accepted my quest, I'll explain the quest's requirements. I hope you won't disappoint me. I only listed the quest's reward at the Adventurers Guild so that it wouldn't attract too much attention. If you can complete the quest, I'll increase the reward to 120,000 gold coins, 120,000 gold. So much. As expected of Count Nicholas's mother, she was rich. Speaking of Count Nicholas, he was a famous golden bachelor. Not only was he rich, but he also had power. He was the current castellan of Rain City. Rain City was famous because it rained for most of the 4 seasons. Because of the abundant rain, the crops here grew very quickly, and it was considered a very rich city. As the castellan, Count Nicholas was only 30 years old. Not only was he handsome, but he was also rich and had a respectable status. He was popular with many girls. However, such a popular golden bachelor had never been involved in any scandals with the people who had accepted the mission. Everyone who knew about him found it unbelievable. No matter what others thought, the Count seemed to have no interest in women. Other than dealing with the affairs of the city, he rarely came into contact with women. Until one day, Nicholas suddenly brought back a beautiful woman and was deeply infatuated with her. The two of them got married less than a month after they met. This sudden wedding shocked many people. Pei Qing also heard about it. At that time, they were still wondering what kind of beauty could make a man who had seen countless beauties and not be moved by her eagerly marry her. They didn't expect that less than half a year after the wedding, they would receive a mission from Count Nicholas's mother, and this mission was related to her daughter-in-law. Could it be that mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were really natural enemies? Because she didn't want to be replaced by this woman in her son's heart, she wanted to find trouble with her daughter-in-law. Or was there really something wrong with the new countess? No matter which possibility it was, it didn't have much to do with the adventurers who accepted the mission. What they had to do was find a way to find out the truth and collect the money. Then, the old lady told Feng Wu and the others about her suspicions about her daughter-in-law. It turned out that after his daughter-in-law married into the family, Count Nicholas had changed. He didn't like to go out and stayed in the castle with his wife all day long. He also didn't like to deal with political affairs. In the past, although Nicholas didn't love his people like his children, he was definitely a good castellan who worked seriously and responsibly. But now, he didn't deal with any affairs and left all the affairs to the deputy castellan. The deputy castellan was Nicholas's good brother who had grown up with him. The first person to notice that something was wrong with Nicholas was the deputy castellan. In addition, he was locked in the room with his wife all day long. His body was getting weaker day by day, and now he was even bedridden. Even the old lady, his mother, couldn't see her son every time she wanted to. Chapter 443. Nicholas seemed to be very infatuated with his wife. He couldn't stay away from her for even a moment. If the old madam had something to say to him, he would ask the countess to leave for a while. Nicholas would even say extremely harsh words to his mother, not caring if it would hurt his mother's feelings. It was impossible for a mother not to understand her child. Count Nicholas lost his father when he was young, and it was the old madam who raised him. Nicholas had always been very respectful to the old madam. The old madam knew that if it were her son, he wouldn't ignore his mother like this, no matter how much he loved a woman. At that time, the old madam had already begun to suspect that her son had been plotted against. In addition, Nicholas's good brother, the deputy castellan Worth, also said that Nicholas's recent behavior was very abnormal. The old madam couldn't help but suspect that all of this had something to do with the new countess, her daughter-in-law. In fact, when this daughter-in-law first entered the family, she was quite satisfied with the woman that her son insisted on marrying. As a mother, the old madam was very worried about her son. Finally, her son took a fancy to a girl. Based on her trust in her son, the old madam didn't stop the marriage and agreed to it. This was also one of the things that the old madam regretted the most now. If she had investigated the woman's identity a little back then, all of this might not have happened. In the past 6 months, because of her son's problem, the old madam was mentally and physically exhausted. Her hair had turned white because of too much pressure in the past 6 months. In fact, Feng Wu and the other 3 weren't the first group of adventurers that the old madam invited. There were several groups of adventurers before them, but the results of their investigations were that there was nothing wrong with the countess. She was just a human. All of the adventurers said the same thing. How could the old madam accept this? The old madam wasn't a person who gave up easily. If her mind wasn't strong enough, how could she raise her eldest son alone and raise him to be so outstanding? The old madam began to look for other adventurers to take on the task. She believed that among so many adventurers, there would be someone with real ability who could see the problem. Therefore, this task was not so much to investigate the old madam's daughter-in-law, but to investigate whether the reason for Count Nicholas's change had anything to do with her daughter-in-law. If her son's problem could be solved, the reward would be increased even more. This was not a small amount. This reward was a huge sum of money. For the sake of the reward, the four of them accepted the mission and were arranged to enter Count Nicholas's castle as servants to carry out the investigation. In the past, the adventurers who came to investigate entered the castle as guests, but this time, Pei Qing took the initiative to enter the castle as a servant in order to facilitate the investigation. What could be more convenient than the role of a servant to understand the master's affairs? Countless people would pay attention to the actions of the guests, but it was different for the servants. No master would be so bored as to pay attention to the movements of the servants. It just so happened that during this period of time, the castle was indeed recruiting people. The reason was very simple. A few young maids had gone missing in the castle, so they had to recruit people to replace them. Only a few people knew about the disappearance of the maid. The castle had already sealed off the news. The count was bedridden, and the maids in the castle had disappeared one after another. It was no wonder that the old madam suspected her daughter-in-law. This woman was indeed too suspicious. This time, a total of 4 female servants and 2 male servants were recruited. Needless to say, Feng Wu and Ting Yu took up 2 places, and the remaining 2 male servants were naturally taken up by Ting Feng and Pei Qing. The 4 new maids were assigned to a room. Except for Ting Yu and Feng Wu, the other 2 maids were locals. One of them sold fish, and the other was a farmer. They were recruited because they were young, good-looking, and had good character. Count Nicholas Castle had always had very high requirements for the maids. Not only did they have to be outstanding in appearance, but they also had to be efficient in their work and have a good character. Because of the high requirements, they were treated well. Working in the Count's castle was the dream of many women. After entering the newly assigned room, the 4 girls began to tidy up the things they had brought. Because the Count's castle had a unified newspaper, they did not have the opportunity to wear their own clothes. When they entered the castle, the other servants gave them 4 sets of spring and autumn clothes, 2 sets of each. In the room, the 4 girls had just finished tidying up their clothes when other maids came to take them to eat. Meals in the Count's castle were always after the Count's family had eaten, and the servants all ate from the same pot. When they entered the castle, they were given a large bowl, and each bowl could be marked with their own mark. When they ate, they would use their own bowl to eat. The servants all ate in the dining hall where the servants ate. The staple food in Rain City was rice, so every meal here was big rice. Stir-fry the big rice, vegetables, and meat together, and with a bit of seasoning, the servants' meal was ready. At the other end of the dining hall, there was a group of men and women who were dressed completely differently from them. When they faced the group of servants, their eyes were filled with arrogance, and the servants also looked at them with envy and jealousy. "Who are those people?" Ting Yu curiously whispered to Feng Wu. "You don't even know them." The one who spoke was a new maid like Feng Wu. "They are all maids and male servants who are 1 rank higher than us servants. They are people who can serve the master nearby, and their status is different from ours. It would be great if I could be promoted to a maid one day. A maid's salary is several times that of a servant's. Yes, if I could be a maid one day in this life, then everything would be worth it." Some of the maids began to chime in. Being able to be promoted from a maid to a maid was the highest goal of these maids. Their birth and talent meant that they could only be ordinary people for the rest of their lives. As an ordinary person, this kind of wish was already the greatest dream they could think of. Ting Yu had been born with a good background since she was young, and clearly did not understand why becoming a maid seemed to be a very amazing thing. Were maids not servants? Was it not the same? When Ting Yu came back to her senses, she found that many people were looking at her, and the maids were glaring at her. "What happened?" Ting Yu asked Feng Wu with some apprehension. "You said it," Feng Wu said. "No way," Ting Yu wailed. When they entered the castle, they did not want to attract attention, but she did not expect to attract so many people's attention on the first day. If Pei Qing and Ting Feng found out, they would scold her to death. Chapter 444. Tingyu's shameless boasting caused an uproar in the dining hall. They didn't expect that someone would dare to say such fearless words in front of these maids. Didn't she know that these maids were all one level higher than her? If they wanted to mess with you, they could do it with just a word. You offended these maids and you still didn't want to get away with it. Tingyu obviously also thought of this point. She suddenly felt a headache coming on. She finally understood what it meant to bring evil upon oneself was the hardest to bear. But it seemed that she understood a little, Tingyu thought with a face full of tears. Who is this person? She really doesn't have a brain. She even dares to offend the maids. She seems to be a newcomer. She has such poor eyesight. I don't know why the steward recruited her. The maids chose to listen to the rain and pointed at it, whispering non-stop. You don't have to lower your voice, I can hear you. Compared to these scum maids, Tingyu's hearing was not what these maids could imagine because she had been practicing since she was young. Even if they deliberately lowered their voices, Tingyu could still hear them clearly. Look who this is. So it's a lowly maid. A lowly maid will always be a lowly maid. She doesn't even know the basic etiquette. She actually dares to speak rudely to us maids. A young and beautiful maid looked at Tingyu disdainfully and said, You still dare to speak rudely. Are you a god or something? I'm sorry. This girl is a newcomer who just arrived today. For my sake, please don't be calculative with her. At this time, a woman in her 30s walked over. This woman was the steward's daughter-in-law. She was usually in charge of all the maids' work. It was not an exaggeration to say that she was the head of the maids. Tingli, it's not that we don't want to give you face. With her personality, she will cause trouble sooner or later if she stays in our Earl's mansion. It's better to let her leave early. Although the maid was a little afraid of Tingyu's identity, she didn't want to let Tingyu off so easily. I know. Don't worry, I will definitely give you an explanation. Tingyu had not been the leader of the female servants for so many years for nothing. She immediately turned around and looked at Tingyu sternly. Tingyu, you're not allowed to eat today. Chop all the firewood in the backyard, and you're not allowed to sleep until you're done. Hurry up and go. Yes, I'll go to Big Sister Tingyu right now. Tingyu answered quickly, turned around and ran out quickly. All right, I've already punished her, so let's not be calculative, okay? After all, that child has just entered the Earl's residence and doesn't know anything. Give her a chance to correct herself. The woman wanted to say something, but a slender little hand reached out from the side and grabbed her hand, shaking her head at her. The woman felt someone tugging at her, and when she turned around to see who it was, she fell silent. Since Big Sister Ting Li has already said so, of course we won't pursue the matter any further. However, that girl's temperament seems to be a little unstable. I hope Big Sister Ting Li can keep her in check, lest she offends Master in the future. All right, I'll definitely take care of that girl later. Let's eat, let's continue eating. Big Sister Ting Li laughed and left. Feng Wu watched from the beginning to the end but didn't say anything. Pei Qing had said that they came in to investigate the Earl's wife, so they had to endure whatever they encountered and not act rashly and alert the enemy. Therefore, Feng Wu had been silent and didn't say anything. Similarly, Pei Qing and Ting Feng didn't say anything. Since Tingyu had already been noticed, they, the remaining people, couldn't attract any more attention. Therefore, everyone just watched from the side and didn't have any intention of coming forward to help. After eating a tasteless meal, Feng Wu left the dining hall to find Tingyu. The few maids who had caused trouble for Tingyu also left the dining hall shortly after Feng Wu left. Lamia, why did you stop me just now? That girl called Tingyu, I don't want to let her off so easily. Chris, I stopped you for your own good. No matter what, Tingli is the daughter-in-law of the butler. Offending her won't do you any good. Lamia said. Lamia is right. Chris, you were too impulsive just now. It's simply too easy to kill a servant. You don't have to go against Tingli because of a servant. The maids on the side also all came up to persuade her. The butler is nothing. Who doesn't know that the real master of the house is the madam? The butler is the old madam's person and has long been overtaken by the madam's power. Chris thought about the butler's somewhat fearful face. After thinking about this, she relaxed and said. Hearing her say this, the other people's faces changed greatly and they quickly pulled her away. When they reached a place where there was no one, Lamia shook off her hand. Chris, are you crazy? How dare you speak like this outside? If you don't want to live, don't drag us into the house. Lamia didn't expect this Chris to be so brainless. The madam wanted to suppress the old madam by overriding the butler. Who couldn't see this matter? She was right, but no one said anything. It was because this matter couldn't be said openly. If it was said openly, the servants, would not have a good end. Whether it was the madam or the old madam, neither of them were women to be trifled with. Although the old madam looked weak, she was the count's mother after all. If they dared to be disrespectful to the old madam, the madam would not forgive them. The madam would never allow any words that would harm her reputation to spread. It didn't matter if one or two of them died. No one would say a word more for their lives. In fact, that Tingyu didn't say anything wrong. Although the maids seemed to have infinite glory, as long as they took a wrong step, they would die. In the end, no matter how glorious a servant was, they were still a servant. As long as they couldn't be masters, they had to live under the whims and wrongs of others. The other maids were also pale. How could they not think of what Lamia could think of? It was because they thought of it that they were so angry at Chris. Chris also knew that she had said something wrong this time, so she could only apologize dejectedly and didn't dare to speak carelessly. In the end, whether the butler stepped down or not, it was too easy to kill a little maid like her. It was all because she was too angry just now that she spoke carelessly. It was all that servant's fault. If there was a chance, she would definitely teach that servant called Tingyu a lesson. Tingyu didn't know that she had been targeted by a narrow-minded woman called Chris. She was still chopping wood in the backyard. There was a large woodshed in the backyard of the count's residence. Tingyu was chopping wood here. Tingyu had learned swordsmanship since she was a child. Her physique was excellent. If it weren't for the fact that she had to hide her identity and was afraid of being targeted, she would have already used Do Chi to chop the wood. Chapter 445. There was a large firewood shed in the backyard of the Earl's mansion. Tingyu was chopping firewood here. Tingyu had been learning swordsmanship since she was a child. Her physique was excellent. If it wasn't for the fact that she had to hide her identity, she would have used her Do Chi to chop all the firewood. Fengwu walked over to help Tingyu chop the firewood. The two of them chopped for more than an hour before they finished chopping all the firewood. After returning to the room, the other two maids who were originally sitting together and talking with them immediately dispersed when they saw them coming in. They returned to their own beds and sat down, ignoring the two of them. Tingyu was originally different from them. This time, she entered the Earl's mansion to complete the task and get the reward. Of course, she didn't care about how these maids looked at her. The four girls in the room were divided into two groups. Fengwu and Tingyu were in one group, and the other two girls were in another group. For Tingyu, the girl who caused trouble on the first day, the other two girls kept a respectful distance. They didn't want to get into trouble because of Tingyu. The first night passed in such a tense and awkward atmosphere. The next day, the four newcomers began to arrange their work. Fengwu was arranged to do the cleaning work. She was mainly responsible for the area on the second floor. Tingyu was arranged to help in the kitchen. She was mainly responsible for doing chores in the kitchen. She would do whatever was needed. The other two girls were arranged to do the cleaning work in the backyard. Cleaning the backyard wasn't heavy work. Every day, they just had to pay attention to scattering the fallen leaves. After the work was assigned, they all thought that Tingyu would be arranged to do heavy work. They didn't expect that there was no special arrangement. This made the other two girls in the same room a little surprised. They thought that the maids would do something to make Tingyu suffer. They didn't expect that nothing would happen. Could it be that the maids were really so generous that they didn't intend to care about Tingyu's mistakes? Obviously, they thought too highly of the maid's character. They were usually very well regarded among the servants in the Earl's mansion. How could they allow a servant to give them face? Sure enough, in the next few days, the maids took turns to look for trouble in the kitchen. Every time they came, they would ask Tingyu to do this or that, and then deliberately make trouble for Tingyu to punish Tingyu. Tingyu, who was constantly being looked for trouble, didn't have time to inquire about any information. She could only desperately suppress her temper and not let their identities be discovered. Tingyu was being watched. Only Ting Feng, Pei Qing, and Feng Wu could find out information about the Earl's wife. Because Pei Qing was a man, it wasn't easy for them to inquire about the Earl's wife. Therefore, they mainly put the pressure on Feng Wu. Feng Wu was not a person who was good at socializing. Originally, they mainly put their hopes on Tingyu. They didn't expect that Tingyu would attract so much attention before they started to act. If they wanted her to inquire about information, not only would she not succeed, but she would also be noticed by people with ulterior motives. As a new maid, Feng Wu couldn't work near the master's room. She could only clean some guest rooms and corridors. It had been 3 days since the three of them entered the Earl's mansion, but they didn't find anything. They didn't even see the appearance of Earl Nicholas and his wife. The couple was locked in their room all day. No one knew what they were doing in the room. They heard that the Earl's wife would occasionally come out to give some instructions, but Feng Wu didn't see the legendary Earl's wife even once. Feng Wu only had 10 days before she had to go back to participate in the individual competition. Her time was very tight. Therefore, Feng Wu was quite diligent in investigating the Earl's wife. How did she work so hard? Let's take a look now. Scene 1. Why are you here? This is the floor where the Earl and his wife live. No one is allowed to come up without being summoned. Why are you here? A maid stopped Feng Wu and said with a vigilant face. Big sister Tingli asked me to come to the 4th floor to clean, Feng Wu said with a serious face as she carried a bucket and a rag. This is the 5th floor. The 4th floor is below. The maid pointed downstairs and said angrily. Oh. Feng Wu nodded and went downstairs with the bucket. The plan to sneak into the Earl's couple's room pretending to be a cleaner failed. Scene 2. The Earl's wife didn't say that he wanted to eat pastries. Who told you to bring them up without permission? The maid stopped Feng Wu and questioned. The kitchen just made some pastries. The Earl's wife asked me to bring them over for the Earl to try, Feng Wu said with a poker face. The Earl's wife asked you to bring them over? Eat them and let me see. The maid looked at Feng Wu suspiciously. Feng Wu didn't say anything and ate one with relish. After a while, the plate was empty. Maid. Feng Wu, it's delicious. The plan to get close to the target by pretending to deliver pastries failed. Scene 3. Scene 4. Feng Wu tried very hard to make all kinds of tastings, but unfortunately, it was useless. She couldn't enter the 5th floor. The 5th floor was already guarded by the Earl's wife and the Earl's confidants. Feng Wu thought of many ways, but there was no way to see the two people. Fortunately, there was always a way out. On the 4th day, Feng Wu was cleaning the corridor when she saw a young but beautiful woman surrounded by a group of maids coming over. Feng Wu didn't know the identity of the woman. When she saw the person coming over, she didn't know how to salute. How dare you not salute when you see the Earl's wife? Lamia, as one of the Earl's more useful maids, immediately shouted at Feng Wu. This was the Earl's wife. Feng Wu was a little surprised, but then she obediently saluted and retreated to the side. Well, Lamia, don't scare her. Come, don't be afraid. Tell this Earl's wife your name, the Earl's wife said kindly. My name is Feng Wu. Feng Wu lowered her head, making people unable to see her thoughts. That's a good name, and you look good. It's rare to see such a beautiful girl among the servants, the Earl's wife praised. Although the servants were all young and good-looking women, there were several levels of beauty. Feng Wu's appearance was definitely a rare beauty among the servants. After praising Feng Wu, the countess left with a group of maids. Feng Wu, however, looked in the direction the countess left with a thoughtful look on her face. In the evening, in the earl's wife and the earl's room, the earl's wife sat quietly in front of the dressing table and combed her hair. She stroked her smooth skin and a smile appeared on her face. Atlantis. On the big bed, a haggard man called out the name with some difficulty. Dear Nicholas, are you feeling unwell? Atlantis, the earl's wife, asked with a tender expression. I'm fine, Atlantis. Where did you go just now? Why didn't you accompany me? Dear, I don't want to leave you for a moment. Nicholas's eyes were overflowing with affection. I won't leave you. We will be together forever, forever. Atlantis promised with a smile. Chapter 446. After Count Nicholas had fallen asleep, a sudden breeze lifted the curtains, and a voluptuous and beautiful woman appeared in the room. The woman was wearing a cloak and a gorgeous dress. She looked so beautiful. It was as if she could make all the men die for her with just one look. Atlanta, do you have a new target? The woman smiled. She was not worried that Count Nicholas would find out. That's right. It's a new servant. She's young and beautiful. Her body is full of vitality. As long as I absorb her blood, I can last a little longer and spend more time with my beloved Nicholas. Atlante looked at the man she loved most tenderly. For this man, she would not hesitate to sell her soul to the devil. I like women like you. In order to achieve your goal, you don't care about anything else. But don't forget that I helped you get the man you love, and you haven't finished what you promised me. The woman played with her jade-like fingers and said carelessly, Don't worry. I'll do what I promised. I won't go back on my word. Atlanta poured herself a glass of red wine and tasted it carefully. Okay. I'll wait for your good news. The woman smiled with satisfaction. She turned into a bat and flew into the night sky. After the woman left, Atlante walked to the bed and slept next to Nicholas. She was originally a noble lady, but fate had turned her from a noble to a commoner. She thought that was her fate, until one day she saw the handsome and rich Count Nicolaus. She was not good-looking since she was young, so her family did not like her. So, another beautiful daughter of the side family replaced her. She was sent out of the family to fend for herself. She had been looked down upon since she was young. She wanted to have a beautiful face and perfect love. Nicholas was the only one who did not care about her appearance and still reached out to her. She would always remember that day. She was surrounded by a group of bad people and was almost raped and killed. Those people were sent by the girl who replaced her. That girl was afraid that her parents would change their minds and take her back, so she wanted to find these people to destroy her so that she could never be recognized again. In fact, she was overthinking things. No one knew better than her, the daughter. What her parents were most concerned about was their reputation, not their daughter. That girl's actions were completely unnecessary. Fortunately, those people did not succeed. She was saved. She fell in love with the man who saved her at first sight, but she was not beautiful and could never make Nicholas like her. Just when she was in so much pain that she wanted to die, that woman appeared. That woman told her that she could fulfill her dream, but in return, she had to pay a certain price. She didn't care about paying any price. As long as she could fulfill her dream, she didn't care about anything. The woman made her drink a drop of her blood. When she woke up again, she found that she had become a peerless beauty. However, her beauty was not permanent. She had to drink the blood of young and beautiful women regularly in order to maintain her beauty and not change. The first girl's blood she drank was the girl who took away her identity. She would always remember that girl's disbelief and horror before she died. After receiving that woman's blood, she not only became beautiful, but also had power that ordinary people did not have. She tasted the satisfaction that power brought. She liked the feeling of being full of power. Her appearance became incomparably beautiful. Any man who saw her would be moved by her, but those men were not the ones she loved. Thus, she transformed into a commoner orphan girl. After meeting Nicholas by chance, She successfully made Nicholas fall in love with her and marry no one else but her. Just when she thought that they would be happier and happier, Nicholas's body began to have problems. He became weaker and weaker, and his handsome face became haggard. But she still loved him. No matter what he became, she would love him. She knew that Nicholas's change must have something to do with her, so she questioned the woman who changed her. He didn't expect that the woman would admit it so easily. That woman told him that her body had been modified, and that ordinary people couldn't withstand the blood aura in her body. If it wasn't for the fact that Nicholas had practiced Do Chi since he was young, and that his strength wasn't low, he would have already died because of her intimacy. The only way to save Nicholas was for her to leave this man forever. But she was reluctant. She didn't want to leave the man she had loved for so long. If she was really going to die, she would die with him. After death, they would continue to be a loving couple. Regardless of life or death, she, Atlantis, would always be with this man. They loved each other so much that they should not be separated. No one should think about separating them. No one should think about. Fengwu didn't know that she didn't need to inquire about the Countess Atlantis. Atlantis was already thinking about her. The next day, Lamia found Fengwu and asked her to go to the Countess's room, saying that the Countess was looking for her. Lamia didn't take Fengwu up the servants' stairs, but went upstairs through another secret passage. Fengwu quietly asked Bao Bao to tell Pei Qing and the others. Since Fengwu disguised herself as a maid, Bao Bao had been hiding in Fengwu's sleeve, not daring to come out. After hiding for so many days, Bao Bao was already angry and immediately flew away to report. Before flying away, Bao Bao remembered the way. Regarding Lamia's words about taking Fengwu to the Countess's room, Bao Bao was skeptical. Bao Bao flew very fast. Lamia was just an ordinary person, so naturally, she couldn't discover Bao Bao's existence. Bao Bao left very smoothly and was not discovered by her at all. Fengwu followed Lamia forward. Along the way, they turned many corners and finally came to a stone door. This stone door is not closed tightly. A faint red light can be seen from the crack of the door. The Countess is inside. You can go in by yourself. Lamia hinted with her eyes and then said. Fengwu nodded and opened the door without saying anything. Fengwu had just opened the door and stepped out when she found that Lamia wanted to push her. Fengwu could easily avoid it, but Pei Qing said that she couldn't let people discover her identity, so she didn't hide. Fengwu didn't avoid it. Lamia easily pushed Fengwu in, and then with a bang, the stone door was closed. Chapter 447. Fengwu didn't dodge and was easily pushed into the stone room by Lamia. Then, the door of the stone room closed behind her with a bang. Fengwu staggered and was almost pushed down. After standing still, she saw the scene in the stone room. This stone room was obviously used for shady and evil deeds. In this room, there were several women tied to wooden stakes. Their gender could only be identified by the length of their clothes and hair. The blood of these women had been sucked dry and they had already turned into dried corpses. When they died, their eyes were wide open and their mouths were wide open. Their eyes were still filled with fear and despair. It was completely possible to imagine how frightened they were before they died. Through the clothes they were wearing, Fengwu could see that these women were the maids and servants of the Earl's mansion at a glance. Fengwu thought of the news she got from the old lady. Recently, many girls had disappeared in the Earl's mansion. Although the missing people were servants with no background, few people would care about whether a servant was missing or dead. In addition, the steward and Madame Atlantis deliberately concealed the truth. Not many people knew the truth. Many people only thought that those missing people had received some kind of grace from Madame Atlantis and returned to their hometown. A few smart people didn't dare to talk about it even if they found something. The huge difference in status made them not dare to participate in these things. Fengwu walked towards the corpses of the girls. In addition to these girls' corpses, there was only a chair covered with animal skin in the room. Fengwu looked at these dead girls. Around these corpses, several female undead spirits were floating in the stone room with a look of despair. Go quickly, Madame Atlantis is not a good person. She will kill you. Leave here, run away. Leave quickly, leave while you still have time. Fengwu could clearly hear their voices. These dead girls were trying to persuade Fengwu to escape quickly. They also knew that what they were doing was useless. Except for the necromancer, no one could see what a soul looked like. However, they were just small spiritual bodies and had no offensive power. They couldn't reveal Madame Atlantis' true face in front of everyone. Fengwu was about to say something when she heard the sound of the stone door opening. This time, the sound did not come from behind her, but from the front. The stone wall in front of her suddenly split open to reveal a small door. As soon as the door opened, a beautiful woman walked in from behind the door. Behind the woman was a long flight of stairs. It seemed that this staircase would lead directly to the room on the 5th floor. Madame Atlantis. Fengwu recognized her at a glance. She was the Countess Atlantis. Tonight, Madame Atlantis was very different from her usual dignified appearance. She was wearing a red dress, and her snow-white skin looked even whiter. She also had a coquettish makeup on her face. She looked very different from her dignified and beautiful appearance during the day. Atlant walked out of the stone door and slowly sat on the only chair in the stone room. You're so beautiful. Your skin is so good. More importantly, you have a huge amount of life energy. It's really fascinating. Atlantis licked her lips and looked at Fengwu as if she was looking at delicious food. You want to suck my blood? To Atlantis' surprise, Fengwu didn't scream in fear, nor did she beg for mercy. Her reaction made Atlantis realize that something was wrong. Very smart. It seems that you've discovered my intentions. Atlantis giggled. Why do you want to suck their blood? Fengwu could see the thick blood energy on Atlantis' body. Ordinary people couldn't sense such a thick blood energy. Even magicians rarely noticed that something was wrong. If it wasn't for Fengwu's extraordinary eyes, she wouldn't have noticed the problem. Since the first time she met Madame Atlantis, Fengwu had already discovered that Madame Atlantis might not be a human, just as the Countess had said. It was impossible for a human to have such a strong blood energy. Even a person who killed people like Scything Flax wouldn't have such an aura. She didn't know much about spirits. This made Fengwu think of a person or a spirit that understood. Perhaps she should call Liddy over to take a look. Thinking about it, she hadn't seen Liddy for a while. If it wasn't for Madame Atlantis' appearance, Fengwu would have almost forgotten that she had a contract spirit, Liddy. It seems that I accidentally let a little mouse in this time. Was it that damned old hag who let it in to investigate me? That old hag still hasn't given up. I thought that she would give up after investigating me so many times. Unexpectedly, she's getting smarter and smarter. She even knew to find a bait to lure me in. After discovering that there was something wrong with Fengwu, Madame Atlantis could only think of one person who would do such a thing, the Countess. That damned old hag. If it weren't for the fact that she was Nicholas' mother, Madame Atlantis would have killed her long ago. How could she have let that old hag live until now? Madame Atlantis also secretly hated the Countess. Ever since she and Atlantis lived happily together, she discovered that Nicholas' mother disliked her more and more. She even sent someone to investigate her. Fortunately, Madame Atlantis was smart enough to discover the signs early on. She didn't let the old hag get hold of her weakness. Madame Atlantis didn't give up after testing her so many times and sent someone in again. Since she wanted to send someone in, so be it. She wouldn't let anyone who discovered her secret live. Fengwu had to die. Old hag, so what if she found out? I'm the only person Nicholas loves the most now. Does she think that Nicholas still cares about her, his mother? Atlantis sneered. She didn't care about the Countess at all. Aren't you a human? Fengwu tilted her head. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't figure out what Atlantis was. She wasn't interested in the grudge between her and the Countess. Of course I'm a human, Atlantis snapped back to reality from cursing the Countess. She snorted coldly and said indifferently, yes, she was a human but also not a human. In order to obtain beauty and power, she wouldn't hesitate to become a demon. All right, let's not talk nonsense. Little girl, since you discovered something you shouldn't know, I can't let you live. Huh? Along with a loud shout, sharp black fingernails appeared on Atlante's 10 fingers. These fingernails carried an eerie coldness and seemed to be filled with murderous intent. Go to hell. Atlantis waved her hands. Her 10 fingers became her strongest weapon. Her movements were extraordinarily fast. Fengwu swung her sword to block, but Atlantis' nails left a shallow dent on her sword. Chapter 448. Fengwu frowned. She didn't expect her nails to be so powerful. Atlantis didn't change her attack. She moved quickly like a ghost. If Fengwu reacted a little slower, she would have been killed by her claws. At the same time, Bao Bao successfully flew out to report the news. Ting Feng and Pei Qing went to help Fengwu take down Madame Atlantis, who had ulterior motives. Ting Yu took the opportunity to go to the 5th floor to see what had happened to Count Nicholas. There were many maids guarding the 5th floor today. No matter how many maids there were, they were still ordinary humans. It was impossible for them to beat Ting Yu, who was a swordmaster. Zhong Yu's strength was not bad. She didn't feel any pressure when dealing with these maids. She didn't kill them. She just knocked them out and let them have a good rest. After knocking everyone out easily, she opened the door to the master bedroom. There was a big bed in the room. A skinny man was lying on the bed. There were dark circles under the man's eyes. He looked haggard and didn't look like he would live for long. Damn! Isn't this too vicious? Ting Yu's background wasn't low. Her mother had a special ability, so she could easily see what happened to the young and promising Count. Count Nicholas, who was famous among the younger generation, was actually affected by an evil charm that had been lost for a long time. She didn't know how the Count fell for it, but she knew that this kind of charm technique was extraordinary. In fact, the charm that Nicholas was affected by was not a real charm. It could only be said to be a fast version. This charm was obviously done with the help of external forces. The charm that was cast by external forces was more harmful to the human body. It was normal for Nicholas to look like he was about to die. To use this kind of seduction technique, one would need the help of a male and female seduction bug. The female seduction bug would allow the host to be reborn, becoming more and more beautiful and charming, making it easy for men to fall in love with her. On the other hand, the male seduction bug's host would wholeheartedly love the female seduction bug's host. A person who had been hit by a male charm bug would not be able to say no to the owner of a female charm bug. He would only love that person until he lost his mind. In short, he would become an idiot who was born for love. Although the charm insect could help a woman get the man she wanted, it wasn't the right way to steal love. When the two charm insects fulfilled the man and woman's love, the male charm insect's host's life force would be continuously absorbed by the charm insect. When the host died, the charm insect would break out of the body and look for the next man to be its host. This charm insect was very rare. A long time ago, there was a woman who wanted to get a man's heart but couldn't. So she turned to learning charm and tried to use it to hook the man's heart. Who knew that the woman's talent in charm wasn't good, and she didn't have any high-level charm. So, she had no choice but to use some unknown method to give birth to two charm insects. She found an opportunity to put the male charm insect in the man's food. Then, she ate the male charm insect herself. In the end, just as the woman thought, the two of them fell madly in love. The man was willing to do anything for her. However, the woman's body began to feel uncomfortable. The charm insect gave her a beautiful face, but it also needed to feed the young woman's blood to maintain its beauty. In order to keep her face beautiful forever, the woman began to kill young women to feed the charm insect in her body. Just when the woman thought that the two of them could be happy for the rest of their lives, she suddenly realized that the man's body was getting worse and worse. The life force in his body was decreasing. She tried everything but couldn't stop the man from leaving. In the end, the woman died for love. The story between the two of them made people sigh. The method to refine charm insects was passed down from that time. However, charm insects had been extinct for thousands of years. She didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who knew how to refine them. Using a charm insect to get a man's heart was a sorcery. Those who really knew how to use a charm insect wouldn't bother to use it because it had a lot of side effects. For example, the Saintess of Chenya Kingdom, Shumi, was a famous expert who practiced eyebrow techniques. She was known as the most beautiful woman in the world. It was said that as long as a man saw her, he would fall in love with her involuntarily. Even if a woman didn't fall in love with her, she wouldn't hate her or be jealous of her. In short, as long as they saw her face, they would lose control of their hearts and become her captive. She was a real master of charm. She didn't use a charm insect to make people fall in love with her. Moreover, there were such strong side effects. In the future, she could only keep killing people to provide the charm insect with the blood of young women. If she didn't kill people to suck their blood, she would immediately be eaten by the charm insect. Then, not only would she die, but she would also die miserably. Because this charm worm was too harmful to both men and women, apart from those who were truly at their wits' end, no one would be so stupid as to practice this evil charm technique. After sighing at Atlantis' madness, Tingyu began to think about how to save this unlucky Count Nicholas. In fact, Tingyu had completely misunderstood. At first, Atlantis didn't know that her change was related to the charm insect. Later, when she found out, she couldn't stop halfway. Moreover, if she could get the love of her sweetheart, she would rather die. As long as Nicholas could belong to her forever, she could give up anything. So what if they died together? As long as she didn't have to be separated from her sweetheart, she didn't care about anything. However, Atlantis had never thought about whether Nicholas, who was controlled by the charm insect, would be willing to die with her. Should she save him? Tingyu couldn't make up her mind. However, she didn't know how to save him at all. Tingyu was a little anxious. She made up her mind to find the old madam first. Then, she would think of a way to save him. Just as she was about to get up, a breeze blew from the balcony. Tingyu raised her sword and turned around. She shouted, "Who's there?" She saw a pink-haired girl standing on the balcony. The girl's hair was a rare shade of pink. There was a small beautiful peach blossom pattern between the girl's eyebrows. The peach blossom seemed to light up her entire face, making people feel infinite vitality and vitality. "You go down first. I'll save him." The girl smiled. Her smile was like a playful spring breeze. "You haven't told me who you are. How do I know if you're sent by that bad woman Atlantis?" Tingyu didn't budge. She had already unsheathed her sword. "There's no time to explain. This person is really hopeless. I'm Feng Wu's friend. I'm not a bad person. You just have to trust me. Now, please leave. I have to save him quickly." The person who came was none other than Phaser, the saint of spring of the 4 saints of the Star Temple. Chapter 449. There's no time to explain. If we wait any longer, this person will really be hopeless. I'm Feng Wu's friend. I'm not a bad person. You just have to believe me. Now, please leave first. Phaser frowned slightly as she looked at Count Nicholas, who was obviously gasping for air. This count was considered one of the best of the younger generation. It would be a pity if he died just like that. Tingyu was in a dilemma. Should I trust her? She couldn't be sure if the girl in front of her was a friend or foe. If she was a foe, then handing Count Nicholas over to her would be like sending a lamb to a tiger's den. If she was a friend, then she might be able to find a way to save this unlucky count. Life and death in a single thought really wasn't easy to deal with. Tingyu thought about it again and again. In any case, this count was about to die, so she might as well gamble on this slim chance of survival for him. It's decided then. Tingyu didn't waste any time. She nodded and said, "All right, I'll trust you this time. I hope you really have a way to save Count Nicholas." The reward for saving him would definitely be doubled. Tingyu suddenly felt a little excited at the thought of doubling the reward. With that, she walked out of the room and closed the door behind her in silence. The maids outside had collapsed on the ground. She casually leaned against the door, waiting for the good news. God bless me, I hope I didn't make the wrong decision. Meanwhile, the battle between Atlantis and Fengwu was coming to an end. Atlantis was as fast as lightning, even faster than Fengwu. Although she was faster, her attack power was far inferior to Fengwu's. Fengwu fought with her for a few rounds, and Atlantis began to show signs of defeat. At this time, Tingfu and Pei Qing arrived. They easily subdued Lamia outside the door and joined Fengwu to deal with Atlantis. With a loud bang, Atlantis was hit by Pei Qing's spatial magic. No matter how fast she couldn't be faster than Pei Qing, who had absolute talent in spatial magic. As long as Pei Qing used his spatial seal, she would not be able to use her speed to dodge the attacks of the three people. Originally, Fengwu was alone, but Atlantis was already on the verge of collapsing. After being attacked by Pei Qing and Ting Feng, she was immediately seriously injured. Just as the three of them were about to continue to subdue her and hand her over to the old madam, Atlantis suddenly let out a shriek that sounded like she was in extreme pain. The three of them looked at each other and couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. The three of them didn't try to kill her, so logically speaking, they shouldn't have caused her such pain. Could this be an act? As soon as the suspicious Pei Qing thought that, he realized that he was wrong. Atlantis fell to the ground and kept twitching. She looked like she had epilepsy. White bubbles flowed out of her mouth, and there was a pink worm mixed in the bubbles. As soon as this insect appeared, it let out a series of miserable insect cries. "Be careful!" Ting Feng roared and flattened the insect that just crawled out of Atlantis' mouth with a stomp. Ah! As soon as the insect died, Atlantis screamed even more miserably. Her facial features began to change rapidly. In less than a minute, she changed from a peerlessly beautiful woman to an ordinary woman with an ordinary appearance. This kind of appearance was not considered beautiful in the heavenly wind continent. Not only was she not beautiful, but she couldn't even be considered delicate. It was no wonder that she was so obsessed with beauty. The change in her appearance was just the beginning. Atlantis' hair began to turn white, and it was getting whiter. Not only that, but wrinkles also grew on her face. She looked as if she had aged 50 years in an instant. Fengwu felt that her aura had become much weaker and was no longer as strong as before. What happened? Pei Qing was puzzled. How could a person suddenly become so old? She must have been eaten by the charm worm. Ting Feng looked at the insect that he had stomped to death with disgust. He really wanted to change into a new pair of shoes immediately. The charm worm's backlash? No way. There's actually someone in this world who knows how to refine an evil creature like the charm worm? Pei Qing was a little surprised. Because the charm worm was too vicious, it had long been listed as an evil technique by Heavenly Wind, and the method to refine the charm worm had long been lost. He had never thought that he would actually be able to see the charm worm in Rain City. Looking at the disgusting corpse of the charm worm, he simply could not imagine how Atlantis had made such a choice. Not only did the charm worm harm others, but it also harmed herself. What kind of deep hatred did this woman have with Count Nicholas that she would do such a thing to kill him? Moreover, after the charm worm was implanted into a man's body, if it was killed before it could absorb all of the host's life force, then the female charm worm would immediately be eaten by the charm worm. Of course, the host of the female charm worm would also suffer. In this situation, it was obvious that she had been eaten by the charm worm. Now that she had lost all of her life force, she did not have much longer to live. What kind of grudge do you have with Count Nicholas? You're willing to sacrifice yourself just to kill him. Is it worth it? Ting Feng couldn't understand how deep the grudge had to be to make such a decision. Upon hearing this, Atlantis looked at Ting Feng emotionally and shouted, "What nonsense are you talking about? Why would I want to kill Nicholas? I love him so much that I'm willing to die with him. Why would I harm him?" Her voice was no longer as charming as before. Instead, it had become as hoarse as an old lady's. "You love Nicholas. We really couldn't tell." Atlantis had to be joking to use such a cruel method to truly love someone. Fengwu did not know what love was. Ming Shi once said that if you loved someone, you would want that person to be happy. You would always think of that person and want to be with that person. Although she did not quite understand it, she knew that love was not harm. If you truly loved someone, you would never harm them. If this is your love for Nicholas, I can only say that this kind of love is really scary. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to not meet a lunatic like you. Pei Qing felt goosebumps all over his body whenever he thought of someone like her who had used the charm worm to obtain his love. The more he thought about it, the scarier it was. I think so too, Ting Feng nodded in agreement. Feng Wu nodded. This kind of love was really scary. She had to go back and tell Ming Shi about it. She nodded and thought seriously. What do we know? The Count and I are truly in love. The love between us is not something that people like you can understand. Atlantis suddenly roared. She could endure being defeated, and the pain of the charm worm's backlash, but she could not stand anyone questioning her love for Nicholas. Chapter 450. She could endure being defeated, and she could also endure the pain caused by the seductive worm's backlash. However, she could not tolerate anyone questioning her love for Nicholas. Are you sure your Count loves you out of his own will? Is he not forced to love you because of the seductive worm? Since Atlantis was destined to die, they were not in a hurry to end her life. They just stood there quietly with their hands behind their backs, waiting to hear what this terrifying woman had to say. Of course he loves me. I've become so beautiful. How could he not love me? Atlantis roared louder and louder, followed by a series of coughs. Atlantis's body was actually very weak. Her body could not withstand such strong emotional fluctuations. I don't love you. A weak voice suddenly came from a direction. Everyone turned around and saw that the door leading to the 5th floor had opened. There were 3 people standing behind the stone door. The one in front was a very thin man. The man was about 190 centimeters tall, but he was so thin that he looked like he had just recovered from a serious illness. The man's facial features were very handsome, but they were a little out of shape because he was too thin. Behind the man were 2 beautiful women. Feng Wu happened to know both of them. One was Ting Yu, and the other was Phaser. Xiao Wu. Phaser waved happily when she saw Feng Wu. She ran past the man at the front to Feng Wu's side. Ting Yu did not lag behind. The 2 women walked away, leaving only the man who looked like he had just recovered from a serious illness. Nicholas. Atlantis's turbid eyes flashed with a shocking light when she saw the man. However, in the eyes of others, it was like a reflection of the setting sun. I don't love you. I never loved you. Count Nicholas slowly walked to Atlantis alone. He looked at the old woman in front of him with a complicated expression. She was no longer as beautiful as before. She had turned into an ugly old woman. It was impossible for him not to hate this woman. Seeing her like this, he didn't feel the slightest bit of joy from getting his revenge. His heart was unexpectedly calm. Looking at the woman in front of him, he felt as if he was looking at a stranger. No, you must love me, right? I'm so beautiful, I've become so beautiful. How could you not love me? How could she not love me? Atlantis shook her head frantically. She could not believe that her husband, who had always been in love with her, would say such heartless words. Loving someone is not about their looks. Although appearance is important, it is not the most important thing. Don't you understand that? Ting Yu looked at the crazy Atlantis with disdain. There must be something wrong with this woman's IQ. You are the one who doesn't understand. Only with a beautiful face can one have beautiful love. Didn't Nicholas fall in love with me because of my beauty? She had always believed that Nicholas must love her, must love her. I'm speechless with your views. I really don't understand who gave you this idea. Ting Feng was speechless. Nicholas, you love me, don't you? You must love me. Did these 2 bitches say something to you? They are trying to sow discord between us. Don't believe them, okay? Like a drowning person, Atlantis clutched Nicholas' trousers tightly. She clutched it so tightly that she did not want to let it go no matter what. Nicholas looked at the crazy Atlantis and sighed. His eyes were cold and emotionless. I have nothing to say to you. The fact that he didn't kill her with his own hands was already a sign of his self-restraint. He really didn't want to waste his breath on this woman. Phaser and Tingyu rolled their eyes at the same time. What did they say? What did they say? Let's not talk about this first. Let me ask you, where did you get the seductive bug? I've investigated you. You were just an ordinary girl in the past. Your family is also very well connected. It's impossible for them to have the method to refine the seductive bug. Who gave you the bug? Where is that person? Phaser's main purpose here was to figure this out. As one of the 4 holy emissaries of the Star Temple, Phaser was here on a mission. The vice mayor of Rain City had asked for help from the Star Temple, suspecting that the city lord, Count Nicholas, was under some kind of sorcery. In fact, asking for help from the Star Temple was the result of a discussion between the old madam and the vice mayor. Before the Star Temple replied, the old madam went to the Adventurers Guild and put up a mission to prevent Atlantis from suspecting anything. The old madam did not really expect the adventurers to do anything. Her main purpose was to make Atlantis lower their guard. She thought that they would only go to the Adventurers Guild to ask the adventurers to deal with her. She would not think that they had asked for help from the Star Temple. It had to be said that the old madam and the vice mayor's plan went very smoothly. They would occasionally ask the adventurers to come back and cause trouble, so no one suspected that the old madam and the vice mayor had secretly contacted the Star Temple. After the Star Temple received the news, they began to investigate Atlantis and sent Phaser to the Count's mansion to help the old madam and her family solve this matter. That was why Phaser came to the Count's mansion. After the Star Temple's investigation, they found that there was something wrong with Atlantis. She had been an ordinary girl since she was young. She was the first daughter of a family when she was young. Later on, she was kicked out of the family because she was not beautiful enough to benefit the family. Her identity was then replaced by another sister of the family. This sister was also a ruthless person. Although Atlantis had been kicked out, she still sent people to destroy her. Not long after, Atlantis changed. She became more and more beautiful, while her sister died mysteriously. She was sucked dry of all her life force and blood. Her death was very tragic. Not long after, Atlantis married Count Nicholas and became a high and mighty countess. Even her identity changed. If it were not for the Star Temple's own methods, they would not have been able to find out the truth about Atlantis's life since she was young. There must be a reason for Atlantis' change. The person who helped her was the one that the Star Temple wanted to catch. Atlantis was just a small character, while Phaser wanted to catch the big fish. I won't tell you. If you want to know, you can guess for yourself. Ha ha ha. She laughed proudly. So what if she failed? They were the executioners who had destroyed her and Nicholas's happy life. They would never get any useful information from her. Chapter 451. Atlantis laughed maniacally, his old face and hoarse voice sending chills down one's spine. Atlantis closed his eyes forever amidst his maniacal laughter. Before she closed her eyes, she took one last look at her beloved Nicholas, the only man she had ever loved in her life. In Nicholas's eyes, she didn't see anything she wanted to see. There was only coldness and indifference. When she closed her eyes for the last time, she must have been unwilling. Her love had left her in the end. She did not know if she regretted using such a method to obtain love. But regardless of whether she regretted it or not, there was nothing she could say. In the distance, a woman in a gorgeous blue dress smashed the crystal ball in her hand angrily. The image in the crystal ball disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Useless thing, she can't even do a small thing well. The beautiful woman growled through gritted teeth. Who told you to choose such a woman? I told you that she was not good, but you didn't listen. A noble and handsome man played with a chess piece in his hand, smiling faintly. Don't speak in hindsight. Our plan to invade Rain City has failed, and the Star Temple has already noticed this place. We can't stay here any longer. The woman glared at the man. Yes, it's time to go. The man nodded, and the man and woman turned into magic bats, flying into the distance under the cover of the night, disappearing without a trace. Feng Wu seemed to sense something, and looked into the distance, but found nothing. Was it an illusion? Count Nicholas had been successfully rescued. Although it was Phaser who had saved him, the team of experts had also put in a lot of effort. In the end, they had even dealt a heavy blow to Atlantis. The old madam was still satisfied with their performance. After receiving the reward they deserved, Feng Wu and the others happily split the money and left. They did not stay in Rain City for long. Phaser had also gone with them. Compared to them, her mission was not considered complete. She had not found any traces of the person behind the scenes. Because she had not completed her mission, she had been analyzing the possible identity of the person behind the scenes. She did not say anything along the way. Ting Yu and Ting Feng exchanged glances, curious about Phaser. Seeing that she wasn't saying anything, Ting Yu took the initiative to approach. Phaser, can you tell me how you saved Countess Nicholas? Countess Nicholas didn't have much life left. I thought she wouldn't live for more than 3 days. I didn't expect you to save her in the end. How did you help her? That was what Ting Rain was most curious about. She could tell that Count Nicholas had lost a lot of his life force and had no chance of surviving. That was why she had agreed to let Phaser, who she thought was an unknown person, treat him. She hadn't expected Phaser to succeed. Although she later found out that Phaser was one of the 4 saints of Star Hall, she still found it unbelievable. I only injected the vitality of spring into Nicholas's body, and used the power of a divine weapon to kill the male bug. I didn't do anything else. Phaser thought about it for a moment. She really hadn't done anything special. She was the successor of the Seal of Spring, and she also had the 100 Flowers Scepter. With the vitality of spring, it wasn't difficult for her to save someone who had lost a lot of his life force. Nicholas had been lucky. If it had been anyone else who had come to deal with the incident in Rain City, he would have been waiting for death. So she had used the vitality of spring to save someone, as expected of the successor of the Seal of Spring. Amazing. After the siblings sighed with emotion, they continued chatting with Phaser. Feng Wu's group of 4 returned to the central city, while Phaser decided to take a look around the nearby countries. Perhaps she could find some clues. When they returned to the central city, they first went to the Adventurers Guild to hand in their quest. The 4 of them left the guild and went their separate ways. Pei Qing and the other 2 planned to return to the house they'd bought and sleep for a couple of days. They wanted to make up for the time they'd lost from waking up early and working late. Feng Wu, on the other hand, decided to have a big meal. Back in Rain City, Feng Wu hadn't had a good meal. She had to wake up early every day to work, and all she ate was the food of the servants. Even the free meals at Notre Dame du Starlight were better than this. In order to comfort herself, Feng Wu wanted to find a good restaurant to have a good meal. She headed towards the food street. Ming Shi frowned slightly when he saw the silhouette of a woman walking past him, but then relaxed. The 2 women who just walked past were Eve and Diane. Ming Shi didn't know what was wrong with them, but they'd been pestering him every day recently. Because of their pestering, he'd had no choice but to stop going to some of his favorite places. He spent most of his time cooped up in the dormitory, and unless necessary, he wouldn't even set foot in the student cafeteria for fear of running into them. It hadn't been easy for him to get first place in the team competition. He'd wanted to rest for a while and prepare for the individual competition in a few days, but he hadn't expected to even be alone. He'd wanted to go out and buy some blank magic scrolls today. He'd thought that he could avoid them, but he hadn't been able to. If not for his quick reflexes, he might have been caught by them long ago. Although Ming Shi had been pursued by many girls and men, this kind of all-pervasive pursuit still annoyed him to no end. Ming Shi walked out of his hiding place and set off from another road. Fortunately, there were places selling blank magic scrolls on this road, so he didn't have to take a detour back to his original route. Ming Shi walked on the bustling street. Because of his overly handsome face, passers-by would stop and look at him from time to time. Fortunately, he'd gotten used to this kind of attention and didn't mind it. As they walked, they arrived in front of a cake shop. The cakes in this shop were very delicious, and Elena loved them very much. Ming Shi would occasionally eat some of them as well. It was indeed delicious. It was sweet but not greasy, and the texture was soft. It was a little strange today. Although the shop's business was good, it shouldn't have attracted so many people. Could it be that something had happened? Ming Shi only had this thought for a moment. He didn't have the habit of poking his nose into other people's business. Moreover, this was the central city, the headquarters of Star Hall. He believed that no one would dare to cause trouble here. With this thought, Ming Shi turned around and wanted to leave, but the moment he turned around, he saw a small figure that he couldn't be more familiar with. He walked through the crowd and saw a banner at the entrance of the cake shop, celebrating the 40th anniversary of the shop. Below the banner, there was a description of the cake eating competition. As long as you finish 70 pieces of cake in an hour, you'll get a free cake for a year, a free reception ticket, and a beautiful gift from the shop. Chapter 452. It was also written that if everyone else gave up, then the last person would be considered the winner as long as he ate one more cake than the person in second place. After silently reading the competition description, Ming Shi felt that he already understood why he would see Feng Wu here. That's right, Ming Shi just saw the Feng Wu girl in the crowd. Feng Wu was sitting at the long table in front of the cake shop, competing with another contestant to eat cake. Come on, XX, you can't lose to a woman. Brother, you have to win face for us men. The hopes of us men are all pinned on you. Don't lose. If you lose, I will beat you to death. Little girl, come on. We have high hopes for you. Little girl, eat all those stinky men. The man sitting next to Feng Wu groaned inwardly. He was the only one who could save his dignity and dignity. They even said that he couldn't lose. Damn it. If you have the ability, come and compete yourselves. It's easy for you to say that. XX rubbed his stomach. His stomach was already so big that it looked like he was 4 months pregnant, but the little girl beside him didn't have any reaction at all. Her stomach was still flat. He really suspected that this girl's stomach was connected to another dimension. The man was sweating profusely and his face was pale. He couldn't take it anymore and wanted to vomit. Looking at Feng Wu beside him, she was eating calmly. Not only was there not a drop of sweat on her face, but her skin was also white and rosy. Her complexion was good. Wah! The man beside him couldn't take it anymore and ran to the side to vomit. All right. The winner of this cake-eating competition has been decided. She is this cute little girl. The boss excitedly pointed at Feng Wu and announced loudly. However, the boss didn't expect that Feng Wu didn't have any intention of stopping. She continued to eat and eat and eat. Moreover, she ate neither fast nor slow. Her expression didn't change at all. The boss's heart ached. Those contestants who didn't win, they had to give them a 30% discount on the cake. Feng Wu was the final winner, so she ate the cake for free. She had obviously eaten more than 70 pieces of cake, and now she was still eating. What was going on? The boss felt that he was too miserable. He really shouldn't have held a 40th anniversary celebration. He didn't expect anyone to really eat 70 pieces of cake. Their family's cakes were very filling. Even if a swordsman would get hungry easily after using up a lot of energy, they would be full after eating 50 pieces. They said 70 pieces, but actually, they didn't expect anyone to eat that much. As long as they ate more than the others, they would win. He didn't expect that Feng Wu, this little monster, would come to his restaurant. Not only did she win, but she also made him eat 70 yuan. It's over. It's over. This girl can eat too much. If she comes to eat 70 cakes every day, won't their store go bankrupt? Xiao Wu. Ming Shi couldn't stand it anymore. This girl ate like this. Would her stomach really be okay? Feng Wu raised her head and saw Ming Shi. Her eyes immediately lit up. The boss's eyes were even brighter than Feng Wu's eyes. Young man, you know this girl? The boss asked excitedly. Yes. The corner of Ming Shi's mouth twitched slightly. That's great. Come and take it. Your girlfriend won the cake-eating competition. She can eat it for free for the next year. This is a free ticket and a small gift. Come and help your girlfriend take it. The boss couldn't wait to give these things to Ming Shi. Then he immediately pulled Feng Wu's hand, which had just finished eating a piece of cake. Everyone, let's applaud and encourage this little girl. Thunderous applause sounded. Feng Wu was pulled up from her seat by the boss and pushed into Ming Shi's arms. They're really a match. This girl is so cute and the boy is so handsome. They're simply a match made in heaven. But I think the boy is better looking. He's so handsome that it's ridiculous. I think so too. I've never seen such a good-looking young man in my life. That girl is so lucky to have such a beautiful boyfriend. Even if she can eat a lot, he won't dislike her. She's so happy. What are you talking about? Can't she eat well? What's there to dislike? In the gossip of the onlookers, Ming Shi pulled Feng Wu through the crowd and left. After walking for a while, Ming Shi found that Feng Wu had been frowning. What's wrong? Did you walk too fast and your stomach feels uncomfortable? Ming Shi was a little annoyed. He forgot that she couldn't do strenuous exercise after eating. No, my stomach is a little full, Feng Wu said with some grievance. You obviously can't eat anymore. Why did you eat just now? Ming Shi touched her little head and said helplessly, Can I not eat? I thought I had to eat all the cakes on the plate. Feng Wu was a little confused. She really thought so. In order to get that free ticket, even if she couldn't eat anymore, she still tried her best to eat. Fool! Didn't you hear the boss announce that you won? You didn't look at the rules carefully. He gently knocked on Feng Wu's head. Feng Wu blinked cutely. I didn't see. She just heard that she could eat free cake there and that if she won, she could eat it for free for a year. Let's go. I'll take you around to digest. Ming Shi pulled Feng Wu's little hand and continued to walk forward. But this time, the speed was much slower. After walking around with Feng Wu for half an hour, Ming Shi had already bought what he wanted to buy. Feng Wu felt that her stomach wasn't bloated anymore. She pulled Ming Shi's hand and walked to a small ice cream shop to buy ice cream to eat. This ice cream was made by Zicheng first. Later, some people mastered the method of making ice cream one after another. But those people's ice cream wasn't as delicious as Zicheng's. The owner of this ice cream shop was a smart person who figured out the method of making ice cream by himself. I want the same as them. Feng Wu pointed at a young couple walking in front of them. Okay, 1 taro ice cream. The owner took the money and gave Feng Wu a big taro ice cream. The ice cream was purple, and there was a soft taro at the top. Feng Wu ate the ice cream in small bites. Ming Shi held her little hand and the two of them walked behind the young couple. The young couple was also holding hands and looked very intimate. Feng Wu looked at the man and woman in front of her eating ice cream. Was it better to eat it like this? Feng Wu girl looked suspiciously at the ice cream in the hands of the young couple in front of her and then looked at the ice cream in her hand. You eat too. She suddenly turned her head and handed the ice cream to Ming Shi. Ming Shi looked at the ice cream that Feng Wu took 2 bites and there were 2 small teeth marks on it. He didn't know how to react. Young man, hurry up and eat. Your girlfriend is so proactive. The uncle selling skewers laughed and joked. Young man, you can't be so shy. The old lady selling sugar water laughed and said. Chapter 453. The passers-by who overheard Feng Wu's words all turned their heads to look at Ming Shi and Feng Wu ambiguously. Feng Wu was fine. She wasn't a person who cared about other people's gazes. Ming Shi, on the other hand, was in a bad mood. He was so embarrassed that he was about to die. He didn't mind being stared at. He was used to being the center of attention since he was young. However, it was his first time being teased by so many people at the same time and being forced to show off their love. He felt a little strange and at a loss. Eat. Feng Wu looked at Ming Shi seriously and said. The surrounding onlookers all looked at the two of them with gossipy faces. Although they had seen many young couples, it was rare to see such good-looking ones, especially this boy. He was really good-looking. They had lived for so many years, but they had never seen anyone more beautiful than this boy. Ming Shi could only lower his head awkwardly and casually take a bite of the ice cream from Feng Wu's little hand. A thick milky fragrance and sweetness spread in his mouth. He didn't even have time to taste the ice cream carefully before he hurriedly swallowed it. Feng Wu retracted her little hand and took a big bite of the ice cream where Ming Shi had bitten. Then, her delicate eyebrows slightly wrinkled. It didn't become better. The taste didn't change at all. Why did the two of them eat so happily just now? Feng Wu thought in confusion. Ming Shi held Feng Wu's little hand and quickly left the street. He felt that he probably wouldn't come back to this street for some time. After walking out of the street, Ming Shi had just breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect to meet two people he wanted to avoid. Senior Ming Shi. Eve and Diane looked at Ming Shi in surprise. Ming Shi sighed in his heart. How unlucky. Eve glared hatefully at Diane. This despicable woman had been following her like a ghost. What was she trying to do? Diane blinked her eyes, feeling wronged. She was usually muddle-headed, but she was not oblivious to the malice in other people's eyes. She also knew that Eve did not like her following her, but she did not change. She had a poor sense of direction since she was young. If she did not follow Eve, she was afraid that she would get lost. Senior Ming Shi, where have you been? I've been looking for you for a long time. Diana's eyes were red as she sniffled and tried to rush into Ming Shi's arms. Diane had always been the little princess of the family. When had she ever been treated with disdain by others? Along the way, she had been treated with disdain by Eve. If it weren't for the fact that she wanted to find Ming Shi, she would have cried and gone back to her sister. Despicable little bitch. Eve did not want Diane to be the center of attention. She did not want to be left behind and rushed forward. Ming Shi's mouth twitched. Diane was the daughter of a noble in the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. The two sisters had grown up together with Ming Shi. It was not that he did not understand Diane's feelings for him, but he had always treated her as his sister. He did not have the slightest bit of romantic feelings for her. Eve was just a junior that he had trained with before. He did not even have a good impression of Eve. It was just that he was used to maintaining etiquette. Therefore, he did not reject Eve's pestering. Instead, he gave her many hints. Unfortunately, this junior named Eve did not seem to understand his various hints. It was as if she did not understand them at all. The next day, she still came to pester him. It was simply annoying. It was Ming Shi's first time meeting such a thick-skinned girl. Looking at the two girls rushing over, Ming Shi wondered if he should pull Feng Wu and run away together. Before Ming Shi could come up with a plan, he saw two figures, one red and one white, fly out. Following the figures were two shrill screams. Ming Shi. Feng Wu retracted the slender leg that she had just kicked out. Senior Ming Shi, mine. She pointed at Ming Shi and patted her underdeveloped chest. Her meaning was simply too obvious. The surrounding onlookers were stunned when they saw the two girls suddenly fly out. This was 2F** king excessive. These handsome young men did not even have a passable woman by their side. This guy who was even better looking than a woman could actually make three great beauties fight over him. How were they going to live if they were single? Ming Shi silently closed his slightly open mouth and wiped off his non-existent cold sweat. Very good, he believed that before tomorrow, the whole school would know about this four-sided love. Don't think that he did not see that the two most gossipy seniors in the school were hiding in the crowd just now. Their excited expressions made him feel a sense of helplessness in his balls. He believed that if the two of them were not afraid of being discovered by him, they would have already screamed at the top of their lungs. Ah! Ah! Following two screams and two bangs, the two beautiful girls finally fell to the ground after flying 5 meters away. Just hearing the bangs was enough to make one feel pain. What two pitiful little beauties. Little beauties, why don't you two stop fighting? That man looks like a sissy. Why don't you choose me? I guarantee that I will be wholeheartedly devoted to you and will never be provoked by a love rival. A few burly men at the side bit their handkerchiefs and thought in their hearts. Feng Wu. You dare to fight against us? After Eve got up from the ground, she immediately roared at Fengwu angrily. Diane stood up with an aggrieved expression. She looked at Ming Shi with an aggrieved expression and was about to cry. Ming Shi calmly looked into the distance. I didn't see anything. Big brother Ming Shi. Diane was so aggrieved that she even forgot to call him senior. Ever since she was young, she had always called Ming Shi big brother. Later, when she came to Notre Dame du Starlight, according to the school's rules, she had to call him Senior Ming Shi. At first, Diane was not used to it and practiced for a long time before she could not make a mistake. But now, she was too aggrieved. Once she felt aggrieved, she could not care less. I didn't move my hands. I moved my feet. Eve was so stupid that she couldn't even tell the difference between her hands and feet. Eve did not know that Fengwu had already regarded her as an idiot. If she knew, she would definitely fight with Fengwu. Eve almost choked to death when she heard this. This woman must be doing this on purpose. Why did you kick us? Eve wisely chose to change the topic. You are Fengwu? Diane, who was slow to react, finally realized that this girl seemed to be her rival in love as well. Moreover, she was the kind of rival who was extremely dangerous. Her sister had said that big brother Ming Shi treated Fengwu a little differently. Although she did not know what the difference was, she believed her sister's words. This Fengwu must be the most dangerous of all her love rivals. You want to hug Senior Ming Shi? Fengwu said without thinking. Senior Ming Shi was the person she had decided to be Xiao Ye's father. She would not let others hug him, Fengwu thought proudly. Chapter 454. Senior Ming Shi was the person she had decided to be little Ye's father. She wouldn't let anyone else hug him, Fengwu thought proudly. You. Senior Ming Shi, look at Fengwu. Eve was so angry that her heart hurt. She stomped her feet and complained to Ming Shi. Ming Shi coughed to cover it up. He turned his head uncomfortably and pretended not to see or hear anything. As a man, it was better not to get involved in a woman's quarrel. Fengwu turned Ming Shi's head to face her. She told you to look at me. So, what are you trying to do by looking at me with such a serious face? Have you seen it? Fengwu asked. Ming Shi said. He's done. Fengwu turned to face Eve. As soon as she said that, the onlookers who were watching the show coughed. This girl must have done it on purpose, but her serious expression was too real. They gave her acting skills full marks. You. Eve was so angry that her whole body was shaking. Those who didn't know better would think that she had gone crazy. Eve had never been able to get anything out of Fengwu, so she could only turn to look at Ming Shi. Are you deliberately trying to make me angry? Fengwu, you vicious woman. Senior Ming Shi, don't be fooled by her. She's very good. Ming Shi mimicked Fengwu and said seriously. Eve was hit hard when she heard that. She turned around and ran away crying. Fengwu looked at Ming Shi with shining eyes. She had been praised by Ming Shi. Happy, Diane looked at Ming Shi in a daze. Her expression was as if she was looking at a heartless person. Brother Ming Shi, you've changed. Do you not like Diane anymore? Diane said sadly. I've always treated you as a sister. I thought you knew. Ming Shi secretly wiped away his cold sweat. He really didn't have any romantic feelings for Diane. Could these bystanders not look at him like he was a scumbag? You actually made such a beautiful girl sad, you scumbag. Sure enough, good-looking men were not good people. Scumbag, get lost. Let go of that girl and let me do it. The jealous single dogs beside them were crazily spamming the bullet screen in their hearts. Ming Shi, I don't know anything. Wah, you said that you'll marry me when I grow up. Diane felt wronged. When did I say something like that? Ming Shi thought for a while, but couldn't remember if he had ever said something like that to dig a hole for himself. Yes, when I was 3 years old, when we had a family dinner together, Diane sniffed and said with certainty. 3 years old. Ming Shi was speechless. He did play this game with Diane when he was young, but that was because Diane wasn't around. The other children didn't like to play with her because she cried too much. As a child several years older than Diane, Ming Shi naturally did the work of taking care of children that others didn't like to do. He didn't expect Diane, who was only 3 years old at the time, to remember it until now. That was just a game, Ming Shi looked at Diane and said seriously. He was afraid that Diane wouldn't understand if his expression wasn't serious enough. Wah! Brother Ming Shi, you're a heartless person. Diane burst into tears and ran away. Scumbag! What an infatuated girl. I've had a crush since I was 3 years old. Why hasn't any girl treated me like that? Good cabbages are all taken by pigs. The bullet screen continued to spam. Ming Shi's mouth twitched. He left with Feng Wu without looking back. Before he left, he made a decision. He wouldn't come out to shop for a while. Never, Feng Wu, the ice cream melted. Hello everyone, I'm your beautiful senior, Tamancha. Today is the Extreme Survival Challenge individual competition that everyone has been waiting for. Before the competition begins, I'd like to introduce today's commentator. Everyone, take a look at the person sitting beside me. Today's commentator is our kind and amiable Vice Principal. Let's welcome the Vice Principal with a round of applause. Clap, 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 clap. The students below were all clapping enthusiastically, afraid that they were not enthusiastic enough. Did they know that those fellows who talked behind the Vice Principal's back were being made fun of? If they clapped too slowly, the Vice Principal would think that they had something against him. That wouldn't be good. Seeing the enthusiastic applause from below, the Vice Principal expressed his satisfaction. He was indeed the most respected person in the school. Yes, only the principal was slightly more respected than him. Vice President, can you tell us some details about the competition? You've done a great job keeping the competition a secret. Until now, we still don't know what kind of format the individual competition will be held in. Can you tell us some insider information? Tamancha turned to the Vice President and asked. Of course not. If I tell you now, there won't be any surprises later. The Vice Principal's irritating voice rang out. Sighs of disappointment could be heard from below. They thought that they would be able to know some inside information in advance. How disappointing. At this time, Feng Wu had already been sent to the preparation room, so she didn't know what was happening outside. The other contestants were also sent to the preparation room with Feng Wu. The preparation room was big enough to accommodate so many people. The individual competition was different from the group competition. The group competition was based on the team's overall score, while the individual competition was based on the individual's individual score. Although most people were eliminated in the first round of the group competition, the school still gave everyone a chance. In the team competition, everyone's performance would be seen by the Lord God. The Lord God would grade everyone based on their performance. Those with a score of 60 or above could participate in the team competition, and the score would be included in the final overall score. This was good news for everyone. Feng Wu's score was 85, which was considered a relatively high score. The Lord God didn't let those who were obviously dragging the team down in the group competition go too far. It was very satisfying. Feng Wu didn't know about the Lord God's score at first. She always thought that she could participate in the individual competition as long as she signed up. Only after she came back did she realize that wasn't the case. The preparation room was full of people. They would enter the individual competition this time and face an even more brutal competition. Hello, contestants. Now, let me explain the rules of the individual competition. In the individual competition, we will no longer provide you with any survival tools. The only things you can bring into the competition are the items you chose in the group competition. After the competition begins, everyone will be given a map. The map that everyone receives is the same. At the end of the map, we will place a special item. Whoever obtains that item first will be the winner of the individual competition. For this competition, the Lord God will grade everyone based on their performance as usual. I hope that all of you will perform well and strive for a good result. Chapter 455. After the teacher finished speaking, he disappeared from the preparation room, leaving behind a group of contestants looking at each other. They could only use the items they had chosen in the previous team competition. This made many people feel that it was a little troublesome. In the previous team competition, due to their lack of experience, most of them had chosen items that were not suitable for them. Originally, everyone thought that they could choose again with their previous experience. They did not expect that they would even be deprived of the chance to choose again. Fortunately, this did not affect Feng Wu too much. She had chosen items that were useful to her. Choosing again would not change her choice, so it did not matter whether she chose or not. As the competition began, Feng Wu and the others were teleported into the arena. This time, the arena was actually an ice source. It was surrounded by ice and snow that could freeze people into ice pillars. As everyone can see, our contestants have already landed in the individual competition arena. However, the temperature in the arena is indeed a little low. Our contestants' powers have been sealed and they have become ordinary people. Can they withstand such a strong snowstorm? Can they really pass the challenge on this ice source that is less than -10 degrees Celsius? Tamancha looked at the snow-white area and those very obvious black dots on the screen excitedly. Her tone was both excited and worried. Huh? What's that flying down? Suddenly, large metal boxes appeared on the screen. There were also a few keys. These boxes and keys were falling from the sky. Vice Principal, can you explain to everyone if these boxes and keys are used for anything? Tamancha turned to ask the Vice Principal. Of course they are. These boxes contain warm items and other daily necessities. The keys are the only tools to open the boxes. If the contestants want to get warm clothes, they have to use the keys to open the boxes and get what they want from the boxes. Of course, not all boxes contain the necessities the contestants need. It is also possible that the boxes contain useless items or nothing at all. Through the Vice Principal's explanation, everyone finally understood what those boxes were about. If they were not wrong, there were only so many boxes, and the number of contestants was several times that number. In other words, a big battle was about to break out to fight for the essences in the boxes. At that moment, Feng Wu was standing on a frozen lake. Beneath her feet was a hard block of ice. On the shore was an endless stretch of snow-white. So cold. Feng Wu frowned. Without the protection of Do Qi, her physique was much better than ordinary people. Although she felt cold, she was not completely unable to withstand it. Feng Wu took out the map and looked at it for a few minutes. The map was drawn rather clearly, but Feng Wu could not understand it. I don't understand. Feng Wu bit her lip and frowned. After looking at the map for a while, Feng Wu chose a direction and walked forward. At this moment, a metal box and a key fell from the sky and landed in front of Feng Wu. Feng Wu held the key in her hand in a daze and looked at the metal box in front of her. Then, she grabbed the key and walked around the metal box. She walked over. She actually walked over just like that. The spectators who were watching this scene from the holographic screen almost fainted. Girl, are you sure you don't want to open the chest? There are clothes in the suitcase. Don't you know you're asking for a beating by not opening the box? Feng Wu walked in the direction she had chosen. Not long after, she found another metal box. Feng Wu looked at the metal box, then looked at the key in her hand, and then looked at the lock. So this box can be opened. Feng Wu said in realization. Girl, can you be more reliable? The spectators silently complained. Then, everyone watched as this girl, who seemed to have a screw loose, used the key in her hand to open the box in front of her. When the box was opened, a thick beast skin coat appeared in front of Feng Wu. It was a cloak made of firefox fur, which was very warm. When Feng Wu saw this, the corner of her mouth curled up. Although her little mouth had already turned purple from the cold, she still looked extremely cute. He decisively draped the firefox cloak over his body and put the hat on his head. As expected, he was much warmer. Thus, the Fengwu girl smiled and walked in a certain direction. Not long after Fengwu left, a tall man walked to the ice lake where Fengwu had first landed. "Oh my God! There's a box now!" The man shouted excitedly. In his hand was the key he had just picked up. His face was full of excitement. "My luck is really good. The competition has just started and I've already found a box. There's definitely something good inside," the man said with certainty. Then, he swaggered forward and opened the box without hesitation. The spectators under the screen were also curious. What kind of good things could be inside the box that the Fengwu girl missed? When the box was opened, everyone was stunned. A commonly seen zombie in the group competition appeared in front of the man. Before the man could react, it bit his throat. The tragic man was so tragic. The competition had only started for less than 10 minutes and he had already become the first person to withdraw from the competition. Even the spectators were drunk with his luck. What kind of luck is this? The spectators sighed. Luck is also a kind of strength. Someone acted like an expert from afar. That girl is really lucky. Thus, Fengwu had unknowingly become the lucky girl in the spectator's mouth. At this time, what was our lucky girl Fengwu doing? She was walking further and further down the wrong path. The Fengwu girl's ability to recognize maps was really bad. The main reason was that the person who drew it was too complicated. It exceeded the Fengwu girl's scope of understanding. After walking for another 10 minutes, the Fengwu girl found 2 more boxes. One of the boxes contained a large bag of dried meat and bread. These were things that the contestants urgently needed. Fengwu wanted to open the other box, but unfortunately, the key was wrong. She couldn't open the box and could only regretfully leave. Not long after Fengwu left, another girl came. The girl found a cotton coat in the box. Although the coat couldn't be compared to Fengwu's Firefox cloak, in this world of ice and snow, she believed that no one would care about it. The key couldn't open the other box. This made Fengwu realize that not all boxes could be opened with the key in her hand. After another hour, she didn't find any other boxes that could be opened. This made Fengwu somewhat regretful. She had already liked the game of opening boxes. It was just that there were a lot of people playing this game. As long as the box was opened by someone, it would disappear after a minute. Fengwu also encountered a few situations where someone opened a box in front of her. When she saw someone open a box, the Fengwu girl would turn around and leave. If it was someone else, there would definitely be a big fight over the ownership of the box. Chapter 456. The treasure chests that fell from the sky brought with them the supplies that the contestants needed. There were food and other necessities in the treasure chests, but there were also dangers that could kill people. So far, there were already more than 5 people who died from opening the chests. These 5 people were all careless when opening the chests and were bitten to death by zombies that ran out of the chests. Fengwu didn't know that zombies were opened from the chests. Other than Fengwu, most people also didn't know about this matter. Only a small number of people who had witnessed other people's misfortune knew that opening the chests was dangerous. If they were not careful, they could lose their lives here. Because of the treasure chests, some people's luck was good. They found warm winter clothes from the chests, and some people found some food. At least they didn't have to worry about freezing or starving to death. In this world of ice and snow, it was difficult to distinguish directions. Moreover, food wasn't easy to find. There weren't any wild vegetables, and it wasn't easy to find animals to eat. In this world of ice and snow, most of the small animals were hiding in their nests. Who would be so stupid as to come out and be food for humans in the winter? Snow began to fall from the sky. Moreover, the snow was getting heavier and heavier, and visibility was getting lower and lower. The contestants who had lost their magic and do-chi found it difficult to walk in this kind of weather. Fengwu decisively found a place to set up a tent. Compared to the outside world, the inside of the tent was a lot warmer. Moreover, Fengwu's tent had a complete set of quilts and pillows. Staying in the tent, Fengwu girl wrapped herself in the quilt and ate dried meat. She didn't care whether it was ice or snow outside. Fengwu was lucky enough to have a tent to avoid the snow. Ming Shi didn't have such equipment. Although he didn't have a tent, Ming Shi still solved his food and clothing problem. He used a thick layer of snow to build himself an igloo. The inside of the igloo was simply many times warmer than outside. In addition, Ming Shi's luck was good. He opened 2 chests and found a set of warm animal skin coat, a bag of biscuits and water. Relying on the igloo he built himself, Ming Shi also successfully avoided the heavy snow. However, there were not many people who were as lucky as Fengwu and as smart as Ming Shi. Most of the remaining people found a tree hole to hide in. Those who did not have a tree hole could only try their best to find a place to shelter from the snow and wind. This snowstorm almost froze most of them into ice sculptures. It had been snowing for the whole night. Fengwu had a good night's sleep and felt refreshed. As for the onlookers below the holographic screen, they watched as the contestants on the stage were crushed into popsicles by the wind and snow. Their hearts were filled with a sour feeling. Especially when they saw those well-known seniors in the school being abused, a feeling of excitement suddenly emerged in everyone's hearts. However, these people were also smart. No matter how happy they were in their hearts, they wouldn't talk nonsense outside. Who knew if the little bitches beside them were the old die-hard fans of those seniors? It was better to be careful. The lesson that the vice president had taught them was still vivid in their minds. Therefore, it was better to be careful when talking behind someone's back. If you were not careful, you could easily end up in a tragedy. Everyone look. There's another treasure chest descending from the sky. Vice President, we want to know if the treasure chest will descend every day, or will it only descend at special times? Tamancha blinked her beautiful eyes and curiously asked the question that everyone wanted to know. Regarding this individual competition, there were too many questions that had not been explained. It was all up to the contestants to explore. Although this made the competition more interesting, it also made those who did not participate in the competition want to know more about the inside story. At the very least, they should know more than the contestants in the competition. If they knew as much as the contestants, then where did their sense of superiority come from? The vice president chuckled. This treasure chest is a benefit that we give to all the contestants. It will only appear in the first 3 days. It will randomly descend at a time every day. After 3 days, no more treasure chests will descend. The vice president's explanation finally satisfied everyone. So it was only 3 days. Once a day. That was good. If the treasure chest opened every day, then they would have signed up for it. How awesome would that be? The contestants did not know that the treasure chest would only appear in the first 3 days. After the 4th day, there would be no more treasure chests. Although the contestants did not know much, there was no lack of smart people among them. Smart people could guess that such a benefit would not appear every day. It would probably only appear in these 2 or 3 days. Regardless of whether they guessed it or not, everyone was extremely enthusiastic about opening the treasure chests. Moreover, there were often situations where people would fight over a chest. Fengwu had also dealt with 2 men who thought that she was easy to bully and guarded a chest. On the 2nd day, the situation of snatching treasure chests gradually appeared. Yesterday, everyone was still in a state of groping. After confirming that there would be good things in the treasure chests, all the contestants' enthusiasm for snatching treasure chests surged. Treasure chests were invested in by the general population and were not limited to a certain area. Therefore, if one wanted to obtain more treasure chests, it would depend on one's strength. Fengwu used a key to open a chest. There were 2 other treasure chests beside her. However, she only had 1 key in her hand and could not open the other 2 chests. Fortunately, in the only chest, she found a pair of snow boots. After obtaining the boots, Fengwu immediately put them on her feet. She was originally wearing a pair of leather shoes, which did not have much insulation. After putting on the boots, her entire feet warmed up. Wearing the new pair of shoes, she walked around in the snow and felt that her feet were warm and comfortable. Although there was only 1 chest, the Fengwu girl was very satisfied with the items she opened. After putting the old shoes into the space, Fengwu was about to leave when she suddenly felt a murderous aura coming from behind her. She leaped to the side and nimbly dodged the attack. After dodging, she frowned and looked at the place where she was originally standing. She saw a black arrow stuck in the bloody ground. The arrow carried an obvious murderous aura. If this arrow had really dodged Fengwu would probably have been teleported out. "You actually dodged it," a sloppy voice suddenly sounded. Fengwu turned around and saw 2 men and a woman. The 3 of them were walking towards her. One of the men was holding a bow and arrow in his hand. It was obvious that he was the archer. The only woman among the 3 looked at Fengwu with disdain and said indifferently, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and hand over the key on your body. Do you still want us to attack you?" The 3 of them were wearing leather clothes. The woman even had a leather hat on her head. She looked very warm and lively. The 2 men looked at her with a hint of flattery in their eyes. It was obvious that this woman was the leader of this 3-man team. Fengwu blinked. She did not want to bother with these people. She lifted her feet with the new shoes and chose a direction to walk in. "Stop. Who allowed you to leave? Immediately hand over your key and the items from the treasure chests. If you don't hand them over, we will immediately send you out of the arena." The man standing beside the woman with a large sword in his hand said coldly. Chapter 457. Stop right there. Who allowed you to leave? Immediately hand over your key and the items you obtained from the treasure chest. If you don't hand them over, we will immediately send you out of the arena. The man standing beside the woman with a large sword in his hand said coldly. As for how to send her out, needless to say, of course, it was to directly kill her. Fengwu heard the voice and turned her head. "These are my things." Her words implied that she did not intend to hand them over. "Looks like I have to show you my prowess." The man with the arrow suddenly aimed his bow at Fengwu. He looked at Fengwu with contempt. Although Fengwu dodged his arrow, he did not think that Fengwu was that powerful. In his opinion, it was at most good luck. "You want to fight with me?" Fengwu was a little excited. Recently, her Do-Chi had a breakthrough and she was looking for someone to practice with. Now, someone came knocking on her door. Fengwu girl squinted her eyes in excitement. She felt that she was awesome. Could it be his illusion? Why did he feel that the expressionless girl in front of him was suddenly in a good mood? The man with the bow shook his head. It must be his illusion. This was a little lowly. Just now, she was definitely afraid. She was definitely afraid. What good mood. It must be his illusion. Fight. Are you worthy of fighting with us? It's more like a one-sided slaughter. The man with the sword snorted disdainfully. The woman standing in the middle laughed even harder. She almost could not stop laughing. "Ha ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. Who does she think she is? What kind of person does she think she is? What competition? She really thinks she is a root. She actually has the nerve to talk about a competition with us. Ha ha ha." The woman laughed so hard that she almost choked. Fengwu was not angry at being laughed at like this. Were they admitting it or not? Was it a competition or not? Fengwu girl was a little distressed as she thought about it. "If you don't want to fight, then I'm leaving." Fengwu girl had always thought that she was a person who cherished time. This time, she was aiming for first place. Her master had also told her to perform well in this competition. She couldn't let her master down. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt that she had wasted a lot of time. Someone must have overtaken her. She couldn't help but turn around and use her qinggong to run in the direction she had determined. The robbery trio did not expect that someone would actually dare to escape from under their noses. The 3 of them were from the middle school. The 2 men were from the swordmaster department, while the woman was from the apothecary department. Since the 3 of them formed a small team, they relied on their numbers and the fact that everyone's abilities were sealed to ambush others. There were quite a number of people who had been ambushed by the 3 of them. The three of them didn't dare to rob just anyone. For example, the famous people in the school and the famous masters, they definitely had to go through them. It might not be difficult to rob those people here, but it wouldn't be good once they left the competition grounds. They were also afraid of being attacked and retaliated. They had also observed Fengwu girl, this robbery target, and confirmed that this girl was just a loner. Moreover, she was at most a second or third year student. Her strength was low, so they took action. Originally, they were 100% sure that the robbery would succeed. They didn't expect that the victim would not cooperate and immediately ran away. "Do we chase?" The man with the bow and arrow asked the woman in charge. The woman gritted her teeth. "Chase." Following the woman's order, the three of them immediately chased after her. After they chased for a while, they suddenly realized that they had lost her. Quickly look for the footprints she left behind. It's been so long, the footprints should still be there. The woman gritted her teeth and said. After the two men looked around, their faces turned ugly. "There are no footprints." "How is this possible?" the woman screamed. "With such thick snow, how could there not be footprints?" But when she looked at the ground, she only saw the footprints of the three of them. There were no other footprints at all. F***ck. She had seen a ghost. The robbery trio looked around but did not see Fengwu's shadow. Helpless, they could only give up. "Stop looking, let's go back." Unable to find her, the woman had no choice but to give up. Go back." The man with the bow and arrow suddenly had a strange look on his face. Just now, he didn't notice that they seemed to have accidentally walked to a place that was difficult to find on the map. "What's wrong?" The woman noticed that his expression was strange and asked. "We seem to have lost our way." Fengwu did not know that three idiots chased after her and wanted to rob her. In the end, they got themselves lost. The Fengwu girl ran further and further down the wrong path. Unfortunately, she did not know it all. It was believed that if no one told her the right path, she would be lost to the ends of the earth. Under the screen, a bunch of onlookers were watching the competition. Am I seeing things? That junior has already walked around the same place 3 times. A fourth-year boy pointed at Fengwu on the screen and said in disbelief. "You only just realized?" "I already knew that girl was bad with directions," the boy who had discovered it earlier said proudly. What was there to be proud of? Tamancha was speechless as she listened to the conversation below the stage. However, that little girl called Fengwu was quite interesting. As a broadcaster, it was impossible for Tamancha to focus all her attention on one person. However, after a short while, another image appeared. She once again used her charming and mischievous voice to drive the atmosphere and broadcast the exciting moment in the arena. Fengwu wasn't a person with no sense of direction. Having grown up in the mountains, she rarely got lost. However, this time, she had to admit that she was lost. The map was too abstract. Fengwu studied it for a long time but could not figure out which path to take. As expected, she gave up. After realizing that she had already walked around the same place 3 times, Fengwu calmly stopped by a frozen river. Seeing the frozen river, Fengwu's eyes lit up. If there was a river, there would be food. Fengwu decisively used her explosive strength to create a hole in the ice. She stood by the ice hole happily and looked at the clear flowing water. How should she catch them? Fengwu thought of the usual methods to catch fish. Method 1. Go into the water to catch them. This method required her to take off her clothes and enter the water. If Fengwu had battle energy, she wouldn't mind. However, she was a young girl with a physique that surpassed ordinary people. Fengwu had always been self-aware. This method of catching fish in the water was rejected by her. Method 2. Fishing. This method was very good, but our Fengwu girl suddenly remembered that she did not have a fishing rod. This was really sad news. Fengwu lowered her head and bit her cute lips. After thinking for a while, she finally thought of a method. 10 minutes later, the Fengwu girl filled an entire space with fish and once again stepped on the path to find the destination. Chapter 458. Although Feng Wu didn't go in the right direction, she didn't panic because there was food in the space. She also had warm clothes on her body and feet. She walked for more than 2 hours. 2 hours later, Feng Wu finally left the place where she had wandered for several times. Finally, she stopped wandering. 3 hours later, Feng sat on the back of an alpaca and freed her feet. After another hour, Feng Wu finally returned to the right path, but this time, she had fallen behind a lot. Xiao Wu, the place you want to go is very far. You need to go over the big snow mountain in front of you. I don't know what is behind the big mountain. I'm afraid you will have to find another way to ask for directions. The little alpaca's cute voice sounded in Feng Wu's ears. In other people's ears, this was just the sound of a magical beast's horn. They couldn't understand what the little alpaca was saying. Okay, thank you, Duo Duo. Duo Duo was the little alpaca's name. The little guy was thrown here by the Lord God. She was an alpaca and suddenly came to a world of ice and snow. Was it easy for her? Fortunately, she met Xiao Wu. Finally, there was someone who could be her companion. The lost Feng Wu and the lonely and confused little alpaca met by chance. One person and one beast quickly developed a friendship that transcended species. Thus, Feng Wu finally had an ally, and that was our cute little alpaca sister. Sitting on the alpaca's back, Feng Wu happily enjoyed the delicious jerky and bread. Sure enough, it felt good to not have to walk. Feng Wu nodded seriously. Compared to Feng Wu, the others were more miserable. They didn't find a magical beast that could be used as a means of transportation. The whole time, they walked with their own 2 feet. When they stepped on the snow, there was a deep hole. They also had to spend a lot of effort to pull their feet out. It was mentally tiring. Not far away from Feng Wu, the robber trio once again set out. Because they had failed to rob Feng Wu, the 3 of them learned from their painful experience and found another lone girl to rob. This girl was a 3rd-year mage student, and she was also a water mage with relatively low attack power. Although she was a water mage and didn't have high attack power, she had another advantage, and that was that she knew how to concoct potions. Moreover, the potions she refined were not inferior to the 3rd-year students of the pharmacist department. Among the 3rd years, she had always been known as a talented girl. Unfortunately, this talented girl had a shortcoming, and that was that her family background was not prominent. This girl was only the first daughter of a small noble family in decline. His family had no power or influence, so he was only slightly better off than an ordinary family. He really couldn't compare to a real aristocrat. This girl had a big heart. From the moment she entered the Notre Dame du Starlight, her goal was to catch a golden tortoise. In order to succeed in catching a golden tortoise, she had always been diligent in her studies. She was also relatively successful as a person. She had also put in a lot of hard work in the field of pharmaceutics. Although she claimed that her strength was about the same as the 3rd-year students of the pharmacist department, she knew her own strength. Her strength was not as strong as the rumors said. Pharmacists burned a lot of money in the early stages. Until now, she only knew how to concoct some relatively simple potions. The formulas of these potions were relatively simple, and the herbs required were not expensive. As for the other formulas that required some more expensive herbs, she had never touched them at all. Practicing potion concoction was too expensive. If she didn't have the support of someone behind her, wanting to rely on herself to succeed could be said to be an almost impossible task. This girl was also aiming for the quota to enter the Star Hall. In order to enter the Star Hall, she would have more opportunities to choose. This girl was really going all out. She clearly knew that she, a water mage without the strength to truss up a chicken, would not be able to play in this kind of competition. However, she still came, all for that 1 in a million chance. Only, she didn't expect that on the 2nd day of the individual competition, she would be blocked by 3 people with bad intentions. What do you want? The girl screamed in shock. Her voice was sharp and panicked. Cut the crap. Hand over the keys and everything you got from the box. The man with the bow pulled the bowstring and said impatiently, You want to rob me? Aren't you afraid of losing the right to compete? The girl widened her eyes in disbelief. Lose the right to compete? Ha 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 ha. She's too funny. Ha 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 ha. Is she an idiot? She actually asked such a stupid question. The three robbers laughed so hard that they almost hugged their stomachs. They deeply suspected that this girl was sent by monkeys to be funny. The girl looked at the three people angrily. Her beautiful almond eyes were filled with anger and grievance. Ever since she entered the Notre Dame du Starlight, although she couldn't be compared to those dazzling super geniuses, she was still a little genius in the ordinary sense. Although she wasn't too famous, she definitely wouldn't disappear from the crowd. The little beauty who had always been loved by her classmates and the attention of her teachers suddenly felt the malicious intent from the world. After laughing enough, they still had to continue robbing. In this line of work, they had to abide by the rules. As the saying goes, a horse won't get fat without eating at night, and a thief won't leave empty-handed. In short, since they were going to rob her, there was no reason for them to return empty-handed. All right, you're done with your show. Now hurry up and hand over everything you have. The archer's tone was getting more and more impatient. All right, let's not talk anymore. Let's just do it. We don't have to waste time with her. The girl standing in the middle was worried that she would encounter someone who was good at running away again because of Fengwu. The shadow of the last robbery still hadn't disappeared, although it had only been a few hours. Do it. That's bad. When the girl heard this, her eyes flashed with anxiety. She turned around and ran in a direction. Running again. Do you think a mage like you can outrun us swordmasters? The man with the bow and arrow and the man with the long sword chased after him from the left and right. Due to the failure of the previous robbery, these two men had lost face in front of their goddess. This time, no matter what, they would not let the prey in their hands escape. The two men chased very quickly, while the woman ran desperately in front. The snow was very thick, and running on the snow was very exhausting. After running for a short while, she felt out of breath, and her face was full of sweat. A cold wind blew, and it was so cold that it made people shiver. The girl was light, and it was still okay for her to sink into the snow. The two men had a harder time chasing after her. Fortunately, they had good stamina. Just based on stamina, they could win against the useless mage. The girl kept running in front. Her stamina was already very fast, but she knew that she couldn't stop. She needed to get into the star hole. No matter what, she couldn't be eliminated here. No matter what, she couldn't be eliminated. Chapter 459. The only thing that had supported the woman all this time was her conviction. Although she had faith, the two men were getting closer and closer to her. In total, they were only a few steps away from each other. The woman could feel it. She could even hear the breathing of the people behind her. She was unwilling. She was unwilling to be eliminated here. She was unwilling to accept this. Just as she felt despair, she saw a young girl riding an alpaca not far from her. The girl's eyes lit up. She was like a person going against the current who had suddenly grabbed onto a life-saving rope. Help! Help! She screamed with all her might, hoping to attract the attention of the person in front of her so that they could come and save her. Taking a step back, even if that person did not save her, she had already appeared in the sights of the three villains. That young girl had warm clothes and a mount. The things on her body were much more valuable than hers. With this more valuable target, she might have a chance of escaping this calamity. Fengwu turned her head when she heard the sound. She only took a glance before looking away. Before the competition, a juror had said that the individual competition was a competition of individual results. There was no need to care about unfamiliar people. Even if there were acquaintances, there was no need to think about helping them. Because once they entered the competition, everyone was an opponent. They couldn't help their opponent. That girl was an opponent, so there was no need to help her. Fengwu nodded and made a decision without hesitation. The Fengwu girl had always been an obedient girl. After making a decision, she naturally turned a blind eye to the other party's pleas for help. F*CK. This girl is pretending not to hear me. The fleeing girl was furious. Fortunately, she noticed that the person chasing after her had seen the girl. Perhaps she still had hope. Look, isn't that girl the one who escaped from our hands this morning? The bow-wielding man exclaimed. His eyes lit up as he looked at Fengwu. His gaze was like that of a vulture that had identified its prey. It really is that little slut. Little slut, let's see where you can run to this time. The woman glared fiercely at Fengwu, her beautiful eyes filled with hatred. The three of them hated Fengwu to no end. Because of her, they had tasted their first failure. Moreover, they had to learn how to walk in the mountains for a full 3 hours before they could return to the right path. And Fengwu, who had caused them to fall to that point, was of course the person they hated the most. After discovering the existence of an even more aggro value, the three of them were too lazy to pay attention to the new target and chased after Fengwu. He really did not care about her anymore. The young girl's mouth was slightly agape. She couldn't believe that she had actually escaped a calamity. If he didn't leave now, when would he? The girl immediately fled in the opposite direction. At this time, she didn't care if she had any strength left. Even if she didn't, she had to squeeze out some strength. Fortunately, the three of them had already rushed towards Fengwu and had no intention of paying any attention to her. This girl was also not a kind-hearted saint. If she was a saint, she wouldn't have thought of using Fengwu to attract the attention of these people so that she could escape. After running for a distance and making sure that she wouldn't be caught, she looked at Fengwu with pity, then turned around and left without looking back. Slut! Stop right there! Do you hear me? Stop right there! The woman shouted and chased after her. Little slut, don't think about escaping. We were careless last time. This time, you can rest and escape. The three of them shouted at Fengwu. Fengwu sat on the alpaca and turned around. She saw the three people who were slightly familiar. After looking at them for 3 seconds, she came to a conclusion. She didn't know these people. Fengwu rode the little alpaca and ran away briskly in the snow. The 4 little hooves of the alpaca ran so fast that they only left shallow footprints in the snow. They didn't even sink into the snow. Before the three of them ran in front of Fengwu, the alpaca girl leisurely ran away with the Fengwu girl, leaving behind the failed robbery trio. She ran away again. The three of them angrily scratched their heads. They turned around and wanted to find that unlucky girl with no fish or shrimp, but they couldn't find even a strand of hair. The three of them stood in the snow. Today must be a disaster for them. They actually failed 3 times in a row. The Fengwu girl, who had just left, didn't know what happened behind her. She rode the alpaca girl duo and ran happily on the road to the finish line. After walking for another half an hour, Fengwu met some acquaintances. This time, she met 2 girls from the next class. Fengwu didn't remember their names, but she saw them in the combat class between the 2 classes. When the 2 girls saw Fengwu, their eyes lit up. Especially when they saw the alpaca Fengwu was sitting on, their eyes lit up even more. Xiao Wu, I didn't expect to meet you. It's fate that brought us together. Why don't we form an alliance and go together? The 2 girls stared at Fengwu's alpaca with a fervent expression. No. Fengwu shook her head and refused without giving them any face. Why? Are you looking down on us? The 2 girls angrily stared at Fengwu as if they were insulted. You guys are too weak. I'll be at a disadvantage if I form an alliance with you. Fengwu sat on the alpaca girl and looked at the 2 girls with a serious expression. Fengwu wasn't stupid. At the very least, she remembered that a juror and her master told her that if she needed to find someone to form an alliance with during the competition, she couldn't find someone who was too weak. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for her. The Fengwu girl was very obedient. Since she heard this, she would naturally do as she was told. The 2 girls were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They also knew that their fighting strength wasn't good enough, but now that everyone couldn't use their battle chi, they were competing with physical strength and strength. In these 2 aspects, they wouldn't necessarily lose to Fengwu. Damn it, If it weren't for her strength in the top 10 of the grade, they wouldn't have cared about Fengwu with a bad reputation. Because of what happened last year, many people in the school didn't have a good impression of her. Last year, Fengwu was always at the center of rumors. Even if the school cleared the rumor that she was unmarried and had a child, the news of her proposing to Ming Shi and bullying her classmates in the dormitory still spread. That day, Rika was found naked in the female dormitory area. It wasn't a secret. Many girls didn't have a good impression of Fengwu because of how she treated her roommates. Of course, there were some girls who didn't believe Rika's words, but that portion was relatively small. Of course, there weren't many who hated Fengwu. Most people didn't spend time to pay attention to this kind of boring gossip. These two girls didn't perform well in the swordsman department. This made them, who were always called geniuses at home, somewhat unable to accept it. However, there were as many geniuses as dogs in the Notre Dame du Starlight. What could they do if they didn't accept it? Most people had a kind of envy and jealousy towards the top 10 positions of the grade. There weren't any bad rumors about the other 9 positions. Only Fengwu's reputation became a hard hit. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.